What's going on, fellow A-plussers? It is I, your host, as always, Adam Perez, back once again with a brand new episode of A-Plus Hero Report, your weekly stop for your Marvel, DC television, and movie news. Streaming live for you guys over on our YouTube page today. You can also catch us over on Facebook Live, as well as streaming live over on Twitch for you guys as well. If you are listening to us over on Spotify, it's always fantastic to certainly have you guys here as well. I know we don't go live on Spotify, but we usually do go ahead and drop these episodes for you guys either later on that evening or the day after. So wherever you're certainly watching us from, guys, thank you so much for wrapping up your weekend properly with us, as we've got some amazing topics today. While we don't necessarily have the full crew, I certainly thought we were going to have the full crew today, but even though we don't have necessarily the full crew, good old Stuart Branscombe is certainly back here this weekend, guys. So I'll go ahead and break down all these topics and give us his point of view. It's good to see you, man. I went solo dolo last weekend. I usually don't mind carrying the ship by myself, but it's always great to have somebody opposite, like I'll sit here and do all this talking for 10, 15 minutes. And then it's just like, all right, I guess I'll just move on to the next one, So I always like having somebody else's point of view on here as well. So it's good to see you, buddy. How you been, Stuart? Oh, I think you're muted.
Yeah, I've been really good. Couldn't make it last week because I ended up going to AEW Revolution, and what's
Yes.
funny is I remember I messaged you saying, "Hey, I won't be able to make it, but if you want, I can do the live viewer questions video." But that same day, I ended up completely like losing my voice. So immediately after, I'm like, "Oh crap, I'm not going to be able to do these."
It's all right, because of the fact that I went solo last week, I was able to actually knock out all the live viewer questions in one sitting. So it was a nice change of pace. So I was like, all right, no extra curricular homework the rest of this week for live viewer questions.
Oh yeah, and then we also my friends and I ran into Datilla there. And
Hey,
so
what's up,
yeah,
Michelle?
she definitely knows how bad my voice got after the show.
Yeah, I was hoping you guys would be able to link up or at least see each other. I just remember seeing your guys' photos at AEW Revolution and where you guys were sitting at, and I was like, oh, they could probably see each other if
Actually,
they looked
yeah, I
around
think she
enough.
was like waving to us from where like she was at, and yeah, because she was like really close to like the
Yeah,
ring, and then
there's some
we
good
were kind of
seats.
like
Yeah.
in the bleachers.
That's cool, man. Well, I'm glad you guys had a really good time. I'm looking forward to. We got WrestleMania coming up. Do you watch WWE wrestling at all, Stuart, or are you just an AEW guy, or go because you're friends?
Oh, I just went because my friends. Like, I'll watch it like whenever it's on, but I don't really follow it as much as I should. It's more like there's just so much lore to both AEW and WWE that it's like every time I want to get into it, I'm like, oh, okay, what do I need to catch up on?
Yeah, I mean, you're talking like 30 something plus years of lore, if not more, man. So yeah, it's I mean, look, but I guess the wonderful thing about wrestling for me is I consider the fact I consider it at least like a male soap opera, but I almost think it's easy for almost anybody to kind of jump on board, or at least kind of jump on in at any point in time. You might need like some cliff notes or something like that, to kind of get caught up on. But I do love the fact that they at least give us little recaps as to how we kind of got to this particular moment before the episode itself begins. So I think it's a good jumping off point for anybody if you want to get into wrestling, guys. So definitely go ahead and do so. But that's good, man. I'm glad you guys certainly had a fantastic week. Let's go ahead and give some shout outs here to some people that are in our live chat. First and foremost, I do want to shout out Casey, my friend Casey Powell over on Facebook. He actually supported the channel. He donated like 100 stars to our Facebook page. One of the reels that I did, I think, in regards to TMNT, the TMNT trailer that we wind up having, he donated 100 stars to the channel. So thank you so much, Casey, for certainly coming through. And we are monetized now, guys. So
Yay!
yeah, I know. Finally, it's taken us like forever to certainly get here. On our third attempt, they finally accepted us. So if you guys are in the live chat, if you're watching us live or even during premieres, there should now be a super chat button along with the super stickers button. If you want to support the channel in any way, from just $1 to however much you certainly want to, if you go ahead and support us with a super chat or a super sticker, if you have a comment associated with it, your comment interrupts the entire conversation and discussion, and it makes sure that your question and comment gets brought live on air for us. So definitely go ahead and support the channel. And plus also, Stuart, right, we got a lot of conventions coming up. It definitely would help in a long way in order for us to upgrade some of our equipment, right? Allow us to go to possibly more conventions and provide more content for you guys. So any way that you definitely want to go ahead and support the channel, you can definitely go ahead and do so.
Wow, our first
Our first super
live,
chat.
yeah, chat.
What's up? What's up, Datilla? Let her come on in here, interrupt the rest of the scheduled program. Congrats on getting monetized, guys. Thank you so much for the nice donation there and support, Datilla. Always coming through to support the channel. So we always really do appreciate that. So yeah, first shout out goes out to Datilla as well for this fantastic donation. So thank you so much. But yeah, and also if you're over on Facebook page, you can also support the channel by hitting that stars button as well. And again, just know that all your support definitely does go to building up the channel here and allowing us to have better type of quality for you guys. So thank you very much. All right, who else we got for shout outs today? We got Enrique Perez here. He says it's Oscar Sunday. That means tonight they might drop the official trailer for The Little Mermaid. Yeah, that's it. I didn't even think about that, but we might get a Little Mermaid trailer also. He says I also saw the final trailer for the Super Mario Brothers movies. Yeah, the Oscars are tonight. I'm actually really eager for the Oscars to see who pulls out some of these victories. Keeping my fingers crossed for Angela Bassett to go ahead and bring a Best Supporting Actress home for Wakanda. Are there any films out there, Stuart, that you're looking forward to see how they do at the Oscars this year?
One movie that's actually gotten a nomination for like a bunch of different categories is Everything Everywhere All at Once. My pretty much my second favorite movie of 2022. And I look forward to seeing how many awards that movie gets. I think it has a lot of potential for Best Picture, a lot of potential for Best Director, and I think that for the most part, there's also a lot of potential for Best Actress for Michelle Yeoh.
Oh, yeah, I enjoyed the movie a lot. I can see why it's definitely being nominated as much as it certainly is. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to the Oscars tonight. So Adam Perea, we got here with us today. We got good old Stuart. And listen, guys, if you're in the live chat, if you're still around, hit that like button, guys. It definitely does go a long way for the channel. Kurt Moreno's certainly in the house. We got good old AJ certainly coming through. Abase is joining us, followed by Roberto Buena. We got the most talented man in the world with us here today. Nicole Robertson has joined us today. Our international superstar, Francois, is here. Good old Jack Daniels, because it's 5 o'clock somewhere, y'all. Good old John Schuyler's here also. He says, once and always just around the corner. Yep, April 19th, ladies and gentlemen. Mark your calendars. Carlo Bernardo is here also, followed by Jackson Peterson, not to be mistaken for Peter Jackson. Power Rangers Legacy says, you guys know what time it is. It's morphin' time. We got Carter Matthews here also. Morgan Hutchinson certainly coming through. Good to see you also. Marcelino Vasquez in the house today as well. He says it's adventure time. We got Michael in the house. What's up, Michael? I did forget your question last week, Michael. I'll try and see if I can remember to pull it up in the emails. I know you did mention your question went through this time this week, so maybe you'll get double dippings today. So we'll see. Alexander, what's up, Alexander? And of course, Datilla certainly coming through. Thank you very much once again. And good old Ramja is certainly in the house. So thank you very much, guys, for everybody's participation here this whole week. Stuart, this should be a fun episode, man. I think we got some really great topics to discuss, honestly. Any honorable mentions, though, that you might have before we get into any of our main topics today?
Nothing really in terms of news. Just I guess like one thing to note is that the Flash has officially wrapped all of its filming. So Grant Gustin just finished his final day of shooting. I guess he even had his family there on set with him, because there's a photo going around with him in front of the green screen with his daughter in his arm, and I thought it was like absolutely adorable. And yeah, it's gonna be, as much as I love to make fun of how bad the show has gotten ever since, like honestly, if we're being honest, ever since season 4, how it's just been very up and downhill, to be honest. I still, the fact that I stuck around this long, even after the show got pretty bad, just kind of shows you how like special that show was to me. So it's interesting to see it finally finally coming to an end. And it's also interesting because this kind of, I technically we got Superman and Lois, yeah, but this technically is the final, chapter now for the Arrowverse as a whole.
Yeah, some dedicated fans, man, that sat through the Thinker and stuck around even after that. So,
Yeah.
yeah, hopefully this will be a good wrap up. I'm certainly keeping my fingers crossed for sure. And you're right with the season wrapping. He did also go ahead and post a video of him like hanging up his costumes for sort of like the last time. Definitely pulled at the heartstrings a little bit. He seemed like he was kind of emotional a little bit. He like his little pat of the suit and stuff. And I'm like, Grant, it's okay if you want to cry on camera, man. Like we totally
Yeah.
would embrace you. But yeah, so we'll see how emotional the final couple episodes are going to be. And speaking of Superman and Lois actually returns this week,
Yeah.
March 14th. Stuart's going to be bringing you guys weekly reviews for Superman and Lois season 3. That drops when on Tuesday? Is that a
Yep.
Tuesday or that's Tuesday, right?
Yeah, because
So
it's part of the Super Nights, as they're calling it on the CW.
super nice. So yeah, we got Superman and Lois reviews headed your guys' way. So you can either expect them either Wednesday or Thursday. I got to figure out what schedule works best for you, Stuart.
I'm gonna try to have them up Thursday morning, so it'll be like
Okay.
early on Thursday.
Okay. And then we also have Gotham Knights, which we will be doing Gotham Knights reviews here for you guys. I've been hearing not so good things so far from those that have had the opportunity to check out the first couple episodes. But I'm hoping once I get the opportunity to check it out, I'll definitely hopefully have a different perspective. So we'll see how it goes. I'm definitely going to give this series a shot, regardless of the fact that my anticipation level is not really that high for it. But we will be doing Gotham Knight reviews for you guys. It airs on Tuesday. If anything, I'll probably be watching the episode Tuesday night or Wednesday morning, and we'll certainly have a spoiler review up for you guys. Not live, but premiere and pre-recorded for you guys, dropping Wednesdays at 6 p.m. And then that Thursday morning, you can expect Superman and Lois. So just some channel updates for you guys. So yeah, Superman and Lois and Gotham Knights begin this Tuesday. And of course, Andy will definitely keep you guys posted and updated on The Flash. So a lot of DC television content for us to be breaking down for you guys. Are you excited for Gotham Knights at all, Stuart?
I'm a little more intrigued than I was before. A lot of the promotional posters they've been releasing have actually looked pretty badass. And then I know there's been like a lot of negative reviews for the show so far, but I have seen a couple sprinkles of positive reviews here and there. So I'm definitely going in with a little bit more intrigue than I had before. So yeah.
I feel you. I feel you there. And then we got Johnny Marrero joining us today. What's up, Johnny? Good to see you, man. All right, guys. What other honorable mentions we
Oh,
got? A
and
couple
then
quick. Oh,
Indy will be
Andy
arriving
says
in 20 minutes.
yeah, so Andy should be joining us here relatively soon. A couple quick honorable mentions to get out of the way. I thought this was interesting, Stuart. As of yesterday, James Gunn teased the fact that we will be getting a Wonder Woman animated series, or at least he's currently working on it. Somebody says Diana is a character with such a rich cast, with so many untapped potential and stories, it's beyond past time for it to be explored. Hashtag Wonder Woman animated series. And so James Gunn just said, agreed, working on it. So it looks like that's something that they have already had in mind. I'm excited for it. Look, we got ourselves a Batman animated series that's certainly coming back. Only thing that's missing is a Superman animated series at this point. But I've been wanting to see some more of like Justice League characters getting actual animated series. So the fact that Wonder Woman's going to be involved, I love the idea that she's could potentially be getting it, and it does make me wonder if Gal Gadot's going to be voicing her or not. Considering the fact that James Gunn's been pretty open about whoever's voicing the creature commandos sort of thing. If they ever do get brought to live action, we'll be doing will be the actors as well. So I kind of wonder if that's if that's the same thing that's going to be happening here for the Wonder Woman animated series. I might be getting ahead of myself there, but I think the possibilities are endless here. I'm excited for it. What do you think?
Yeah, I love the idea of exploring her a little bit more through an animated series. Plus, it'll be kind of cool because now you got like a series for Wonder Woman characters in both animation and live action with Paradise Lost.
That's true. That's right, because we are going to get that live action Paradise Lost series. Let's see here. What else do we got? We did get ourselves our first character posters for Transformers: Rise of the Beasts. These wind up dropping just a couple days ago. Even though the movie's not until June, it looks like they are working on getting the marketing up and going here. So we have Optimus Prime. We also got Mirage here as well. And then last but not least, we've got Optimus Primal, showcasing what he certainly looks like also. Some pretty cool character posters, man. If anything, I would assume as we get closer to the premiere, we'll probably get more character posters, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I gotta do a because it's like funny. I used to watch Beast Wars all the time as a kid. I'm just
Mm.
like, as I'm getting older, I'm realizing that I don't remember anything about the show anymore. So I need to go
It's been a
back
while,
and
yeah.
rewatch the show. It's all on Tubi for free, so I'll do that. I got to do it at some point before the new movie comes out. I need
No,
my refresher.
no, I feel you there too. It's been years since I've watched it. I mean, literally, the last time I watched it was literally watching it after reboot one day on ABC, like as a kid. So it's been a minute. Um, we also got a brand new poster here for the Little Mermaid, dropping May 26th. Very reminiscent to that of the
Ooh,
classic Little Mermaid costume itself. Oh, hey, interruption time. Who donated?
yeah,
Frankie.
Frankie
What's
with
up,
$5.
Frankie?
Thank you.
No,
And
hey,
no
no
comment,
comment. So we
unfortunately.
appreciate. Yeah, it's okay. We appreciate the outwardly support for the channel, regardless. So thank you so much,
Yeah,
Frankie.
thank you.
Yeah, man, it really does come in handy. It really does go a long way. But yeah, man, the Little Mermaid. Frankie says, "Congrats on getting monetized." We appreciate it, bro. Trust me. So yeah, we got that brand new poster that just dropped, and Stuart, also, we got ourselves a brand new character within the MCU. This was fascinating to me. This was released by Marvel.com this week. It says Marvel Studios and animated anthology streaming series What If flips the script on the MCU, reimagining famous events from the films in unexpected ways and creating a multiverse of infinite possibilities. Those possibilities continue to expand in the second season as Marvel Studios introduces new stories and new superheroes. We're excited to share a look at one of those new characters, the all-new Marvel superhero Kahori. What If asks, what would happen if the Tesseract fell to Earth and landed in the sovereign Haudenosaunee? I apologize if I'm completely butchering this name. Haudenosaunee Confederacy before the colonization of America. The Tesseract takes on a new life and a new mythology, transforming a lake into a getaway to the stars and leading Kahori, a young Mohawk woman, on a quest to discover her power. This almost
Huh.
felt like they watched Prey and was like, "Hey, that's a great idea, but let's give her superpowers." But regardless, though, I kind of look. I'm a sucker for period pieces, and especially when it comes to the Tesseract and just its long lineage of like where it's been, sort of thing. I kind of dig the concept of this, honestly. What do you think? The idea of really establishing brand new characters and creating a brand new character and trying to make it work. How do you like the concept of Kohori?
I love the concept of her, and I think this is kind of interesting because, like, one, I don't want to call it a plot hole, but one like kind of thing when it comes to What If is that most of the things that they're going to be like making alternate realities on are usually going to be based on what's already been established in the MCU. So, for example, you very likely were never going to get Eternal type characters in season one because the Eternals in the MCU hadn't yet
Mm,
been established. So, this is an interesting direction because here we could get something that potentially gets established within What If before even getting established in the MCU.
ooh.
So I think that's kind of an interesting direction for them to take if that's where they decide to go with it later on. I mean, that's also just assuming she appears in the MCU later, which she may not. But if they ever do want to bring her into the MCU, I think this is a great opportunity for introducing her character.
Yeah, I definitely agree too. Because look, we didn't have an. I don't think we had an Agent Carter before What If. Am I correct?
I mean, we didn't have a
Not an
Captain
Agent Carter. I
Carter.
mean a Captain Carter is what I meant. I
Yeah,
apologize.
yeah,
Um,
that's correct.
So I think I do think if it pops up in What If, I do think that there's always a possibility that it could find its way somehow in the MCU. If it's a pretty well received series, or at least a pretty well received episode for Kahori, maybe as Marcelino said, maybe it's something they can dabble and introduce her into like an actual Marvel series, comic book wise. And if it still continues to gain some traction, then maybe bring her into the MCU at some point in time, even if it is a period piece or taking place sort of in the past, or maybe she's just like a cameo that pops up if we have any other time traveling or multiverse sort of shenanigans. So definitely a possibility there, but I definitely wanted to highlight a brand new Marvel character being created for What If.
Yeah.
And then, oh, go ahead. You had one last thing you were gonna say?
Oh, I was just gonna say, and plus, we have the huge possibility of her showing up in Secret Wars because I'm pretty sure it's safe to say that, like in Secret Wars, that's probably going to be multiversal with the characters they're going to bring in.
Yeah, so there's definitely a possibility there. Somebody asked, what was her name? Amber Mid Thunder, the girl that played Prey in Prey, that girl that played the main character in Prey, if she was gonna be Kahori. She's like, I haven't heard anything, but we'll see. I don't necessarily know if she wants to just be like forever known as the girl from Prey. You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
hopefully she'll be able to expand her stardom. And then last but not least, a couple trailers I want us to tackle, Stuart. The TMNT trailer that wind up coming out. We got the brand new poster. We also had some brand new concept art for the cast announcements and things like that. But they did drop themselves a trailer. I did a small little snippet on one of our YouTube shorts discussing it. But what are your thoughts in regards to the brief trailer that we wind up getting, the teaser trailer?
Happy with everything I've seen so far. Loving the cast that they got, even for some of the characters we haven't seen yet. I think the casting for the villains, especially, get me really excited. And I love the art style too. I think this is, it looks like a comic book, which of course is how the Ninja Turtles originated. I like that they actually kind of look like teenagers in this one, which is weird because it's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and that's something you kind of rarely see in the Ninja Turtles movies. Like they rarely give off teenage vibes in their look. So this is kind of that first time. And yeah, art and animation, I think, are the two big things that they got right about this, at least from the teaser. Maybe the actual movie will look like shit. I doubt it, but it is a possibility. So yeah, nothing but good vibes from this so far.
Yeah, me too. I definitely feel the good vibes here. A lot of people have been comparing this to Into the Spider-Verse, but the creators came out and said, yeah, I can see why people would make a connection to Into the Spider-Verse, but a lot of our animators actually come from the Netflix series. What is it? The Machines versus the Mitchells or something like that, or the Mitchells
Oh,
versus the
Mitchell's versus
Machines.
Machines, yeah.
Yeah. And when I looked at the trailer, because I had not gotten an opportunity to see that animated movie, and I've heard great things about it. But when I go and look at the trailer itself, you can definitely see the inspiration for the art style for sure from that film. This one just feels a little bit more New York, kind of gritty, a little bit more to it, but it
Mhm.
definitely takes its inspiration from there. But overall, a great little introduction to the characters and the teenage voices, I will say, threw me off just because I'm so used to us having like adult actors portray these characters, that the fact that they actually go back to like teenage voices I thought was pretty appropriate, but it was a little startling at first, especially hearing like Donnie's voice along with Raph, because I was so used to like Raphael having like this deep New York accent. And then the fact that he's got this still is childish. I mean, they're probably like 13, 14, who certainly knows, right? Barely hitting puberty. So it's pretty fun. It should be pretty fun to see what Seth Rogen does with these characters. We also got ourselves a final trailer for Super Mario Brothers. The movie's set to go ahead and drop this upcoming April. It's going to be dropping relatively soon. Have you had the opportunity to see the final trailer that dropped a couple days ago, Stuart?
No, I didn't even realize there was a new trailer.
Oh man, if you get the opportunity, please go ahead and check it out. I feel like every trailer I continue to see just gets better and better and better. There's some great team up work here between Donkey Kong and Super Mario in this trailer. They've got some cool little like quick side scrolling scenes that they show, a nice little butt stomp from Mario in here, and even showcase like the mushroom and the fire flower powers also. So I thought that was
Ooh.
pretty cool. And they have a pretty epic Mario Kart scene at the very end that honestly gave me goosebumps. And I'm like, oh, I can't wait to, like, it looks so freaking cool what they've been able to do, especially on their Rainbow Road level in this particular world. But the animation certainly seems like it's there. The humor makes me crack up all the time. The fact that that they haven't given a full focus on Chris Pratt's Mario. You know, he kind of has a couple lines here or there. It's kind of growing on me a little bit. I'm not gonna lie. Considering the fact that we've got so much other stuff going on in here and hearing everybody else's voices, it almost feels like Chris Pratt's voice kind of does fit within all the shenanigans that we kind of have certainly going on. So a little startling from the very first teaser trailer that we got. I think a lot of us were kind of unsure about it, but I'm telling you, man, the more and more I see and hear of this movie, I'm fully behind this, man. I cannot wait for this film. It looks so much fun. What about you, though, Stuart?
I mean, having not seen the final trailer, I can say that everything I've seen from the first two trailers, and then just all the different you know production photos that they've been like releasing. I mean, it looks like everything that you'd want to see in a Super Mario Brothers movie, which is a good thing, but it also makes me slightly worried because I'm like, how are you going to fit all this into one? Like, it's a kids movie, so I doubt it's going to be longer than an hour and 20 minutes. So it's like, how are you gonna like be able to fit all this in? So I look forward to seeing like how it all like kind of flows together. But yeah, of course, the main concern, of course, is the Mario voice. But I want to wait until like I see the whole movie before I judge, fully.
No, I feel you. I feel you there. What's up, Mikey? Good to see you in here. He says he thinks Super Mario's going to make $1 billion. That's a tall mountain to climb, Mikey. But I like the enthusiasm, man.
Yeah.
I'm keeping my fingers crossed that you might be right. You know, Stuart, there's only about 50 movies of all time that have ever crossed the $1 billion mark. If you go to Box Office Mojo and check out just worldwide box office, just how many people have passed the $1 billion mark. I think it's like 51 movies, and that's like of all time. So, I know that we live in a day and age where Marvel's like, oh, we can make that in our sleep sort of thing back in the past during their first 3 phases sort of thing. But it's really difficult to certainly do if you're not a big sort of blockbuster film, to certainly say the least. So we'll see if Super Mario can make $1 billion. Would it surprise me? Probably not, because everybody loves some Mario. And I think a lot of us have been waiting for a really good Mario film. And if they can pull it off, you never know. I'm kind of curious also what the Lego movie did financially, because that had Chris Pratt as its lead also, and that was another great animated film. So that might be a nice barometer to kind of see like how much the Lego movie did, and see if we can expect maybe Super Mario to make a little bit more than that or not. But I like where your head is at, Mikey. I like where your head is at.
Trying to see if any other because I think the first Frozen movies made $1 billion. But I'm not sure after that how many other movies have crossed that $1 billion.
Animated wise,
Yeah. Oh, The Lion King did. Okay, here we go. Found them. Oh, so quite a few actually. Okay, so these are the movies. There's 10 animated movies that have crossed $1 billion. Finding Dory, Despicable Me 3, Zootopia, Toy Story 3, Toy Story 4, Minions, Incredible 2, Frozen, Frozen 2, and the Lion King remake. So
and the Minion is up there, and that's from Illumination too, right? Like Super Mario. So, and wasn't there Despicable Me 3 up there or some shit?
Yeah, Despicable Me.
That's
3,
Illumination also too. So yeah, Mikey, you might be onto something here, man. We'll keep you guys posted with the box office when the movie winds up dropping.
Yeah, nothing from DreamWorks though. Illumination and Disney beating DreamWorks. Dang,
that's surprising.
Yeah.
Getting to $1 billion is not an easy task.
Oh no.
And then last but not least, the D&D movie, Stuart, is right around the corner.
Yeah.
They did have themselves a brand new trailer that dropped also, I think an international trailer a couple of days ago, along with brand new character posters, which I love these character posters. Michelle Rodriguez as the Barbarian looks incredible in this poster. I know this was on your top 5, wasn't it, for most anticipated movies or honorable mention?
I don't remember if it was honorable mention, but I definitely did talk about it in that video.
Yeah, man. And I can see why. I swear to God, the more and more I look at these trailers and see these trailers, I cannot stop laughing, bro. Like
Yeah.
Chris Pine has such a great charm and humor about him. I'm a big fan of Justice Smith, along with Michelle Rodriguez. I really do think that they just have a great cast and a great chemistry, and I really do think it's going to showcase itself extremely well on the big screen, honestly. So I'm really looking forward to it. Did you get a chance to check out the last trailer at all?
Yeah, I think we're playing it currently with our it's like one of the trailers that we're playing with Scream
Oh,
6.
from the movie. Mhm.
Um yeah, it looks just as entertaining as the previous trailers. I say this movie, it looks like Guardians of the Galaxy, but with fantasy instead of sci-fi.
I could totally see that. I could totally see that. I love the sequence at the end of the trailer when Chris Pine is asking the the dug up body. Like he's got 5 questions he's got to ask him, and he keeps stumbling over his own words and like keeps asking him all the wrong questions. And before he knows it, he's used up all his questions. I absolutely love it. Chris Pine is so fantastic, man. I can't wait to see what they do with this movie. But I gotta be honest, when they announced this movie, I definitely wasn't that excited for it. But the more I think the marketing is on point, the promotion is doing great. They seem like they've got a lot of fun. I've heard some early reactions to it already, and a lot of people are having a good time with this Dungeons and Dragons movie. So that's going to be dropping towards the end of this month, and I think March is going to be another big month for movies, guys, for sure. A lot of big things
Mhm.
happening. What's up, Blossom?
Yeah, come to think of it, we already had Creed and Scream 6 this month, and yeah, now we still got some more to go with Dungeons and Dragons. So good month for
and
movies.
and John Wick 4 is dropping
Oh
also
yeah,
this
yeah,
month.
John
So
Wick
yeah,
4.
a lot of great things happening, guys. But that will wrap up our quick honorable mentions for you guys today. So thank you very much, everybody. That certainly came through for those. And Stuart, I think it's time for us to get into our main topics today, bro. You ready to go ahead and knock this out with me?
Always.
Let's do it, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you again to everybody. Also, before we start, that's supported the channel, hitting that super chat, hitting those stars buttons, guys. It really does go a long way. But let's go ahead and get into our main topic. We'll start off with some Marvel talk for you guys because we got a lot of Marvel news that we need to discuss, especially the return of everybody's favorite Punisher in Jon Bernthal. This week, we wind up getting confirmation that he will, in fact, be returning. We already knew that Charlie Cox was back as Daredevil. Vincent D'Onofrio was certainly coming back as the Kingpin. And it really has gotten the speculation beginning as to who else from Netflix Marvel series will in fact be coming over. People have been wanting Kristen Ritter to certainly return. Mike Coulter, I think they've even been teasing like some photos together. Kristen has been teasing like some her working out and stuff. Maybe she's getting into Jessica Jones MCU shape. Who certainly knows? But one person that we no longer have to wonder about is Jon Bernthal himself. As this week, ladies and gentlemen, they have announced that he is returning to the MCU as the Punisher, and his first appearance will in fact be in Daredevil Born Again, the epic 18 episode series that we are going to be getting from Marvel. This comes to us from HollywoodReporter.com, saying Jon Bernthal returning as the Punisher for Daredevil Born Again. So fantastic to see him back. It says the actor will reprise Frank Castle, aka the Punisher. Sources tell the Hollywood Reporter. Bernthal joins Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio in this series, which begins shooting in New York this month. In a departure from other Marvel series, which come in at 6 or 9 episodes per season, Born Again is planned as a whopping 18 episode epic. Writers and executive producers Matt Corman and Chris Ord are behind the show, which is expected to bow in the spring of 2024. So it sounds like it sounds very much like filming is about to begin. It says Born Again takes its title from the landmark Daredevil storyline published in 1986, written by Frank Miller. The show is deviating from that plot, although by how much is certainly unclear. The Punisher, for example, made no appearance in that particular comic story. It almost feels, Stuart, like they're maybe not necessarily going for the storyline, but just the title sounds great. So let's go ahead and do that. And considering the fact that this is from, bringing this over from Netflix, the idea and the concept of Born Again kind of has a cool little play on words, considering the path that he's taken to actually get here to the MCU. Born Again follows Daredevil series that ran for 3 seasons. That was known as the Netflix era of Marvel Television. Yada yada yada. So that's really about all that we have. However, the other actors from the Netflix Daredevil series are not expected to return. Deborah Ann Wall and Eldon Henson, who played classic supporting characters Karen Page and Foggy Nelson, respectively, are not on the roll call for the Marvel series. It is also unclear whether those characters will be recast or excised from the story. So the idea of them maybe not even being in this series is still unknown at this point. So some good things to definitely be excited about. And for some fans of Karen Page and Foggy Nelson, some news to maybe be a little bit bummed about. So let me throw this over to you, Stuart. You hear the news on who's returning and who has not been, who is not returning as of right now. What are your thoughts, man?
Well, I absolutely love Jonathan Bernthal's Punisher. He is personally my favorite actor to play the role so far. So hearing that he's coming back to the MCU gets me hella excited. I'm very curious to see how much of his character that they keep from the Netflix shows and how much they take like an MCU approach to it. I'd love to see if this version of Punisher will idolize Captain America the same way Punisher did in the comic books. And you know, I think that like I am worried with Karen, with the actress that played Karen and the actor that played Foggy not coming back, only because they've already kind of announced that the actress that played Kingpin's wife has already been recast in Daredevil Born Again. So if they're already recasting her, it kind of leaves me worried that they could be recasting Foggy and Karen as well. But you know, even if those characters are being recasted, I'm still glad that they're keeping, you know, Jonathan Bernthal, Charlie Cox, and then very possibly, you know, Luke Cage and Jessica Jones. So I love who they're keeping so far. I hope they bring back more. We'll have to wait and see though.
Yeah, I hope that they bring back more. Even though I wasn't the biggest fan of Jessica Jones, I did like Kristen Ritter's performance as her.
Mhm.
I wouldn't mind seeing her and Mike Coulter back as Luke Cage. And clearly not in the Born Again series, but at some point in time, I think we've been tooting the horn for a Heroes for Hire series. I
Yeah.
think if there's a way, if you don't want to necessarily give everybody their own individual series, I think Heroes for Hire would be a great way to get like 3 or 4 of those characters sort of in one whole series. I mean, if you want to bring back Finn Jones as Iron Fist, if you want to emphasize somebody else as a brand new Iron Fist, who certainly knows, but I think you can fit like 3 or 4 of those characters into one series. Jon Bernthal's return for me personally, I'm really excited for. I guess a lot of people, if there is any worry, is the idea of like how rated R, will you make the Punisher? How violent will his antics from Netflix sort of carry over to Disney? One of the things that Jon Bernthal has said is if he is going to return to the Punisher, he really doesn't want his character to kind of change at all. And I think that's one
Mhm.
of the reasons why I truly appreciate Jon Bernthal, is the fact that not only does he love this character, but he personally understands this character. And I feel like he is just sort of has that mind meld and so protective of this character now that if Disney were to change it so drastically, I don't know if honestly, I don't know if Jon Bernthal would even want to return to something like that. So there is a level of understanding, I think, for me, that if Jon Bernthal's coming back, I don't expect Disney to certainly hold back or hold any punches. Deadpool 3, I think, is still scheduled to be rated R. So I do think that they are at least open to pushing the boundaries a little bit. But again, I still don't think it's going to be like blood all over the place sort of thing. But I do think what makes Frank Castle, that rawness, I think Jon Bernthal will certainly bring that to the forefront, like we remember him when it comes to the Netflix Punisher. As for Foggy and Karen, Foggy not being in the series does feel a little bit off to me. He is a character I personally would really enjoy seeing. Whether or not they've gone their separate ways and have created separate law firms, maybe Foggy does wind up getting recast. I do think that would be a little bit of a bummer. But honestly, Stuart, I can do without Karen Page. She's a little bit too depressing for me. Too much drama. I feel like, especially after season 3. I really want Matt Murdock to kind of move away from any love interest that he might have had with Karen, just because of the fact that I'm just been spoiled rotten by his chemistry and his relationship with Tatiana Maslany as Jennifer Walters as She-Hulk. I definitely would I like seeing that side of Matt Murdock brought out a little bit more sentimental yet still humorous. So if there's anybody that I would like to pop up in Daredevil Born Again, it might be Jennifer Walters at some point in time over a Karen Page, just because we've had 3 seasons with Karen and Matt, and it's just been kind of drama filled and back and forth. And so I'm just I'm ready to move on and give him a new love interest. But if anything, Foggy, I'm gonna need Foggy back in some capacity or another. But I love this news. And if anything, Stuart, this also makes me hope that he pops up in other MCU projects now. And I think we teased the idea of maybe him coming in like a Spider-Man 4, right? Maybe being hired to take down the web slinger, I think would be cool. Going back to the classic Amazing Spider-Man comic book. Well, we got the Punisher, and then you got the big Spider-Man in his scope sort of thing cover. Very classic, iconic, Amazing Spider-Man cover. So Jon Bernthal being in the MCU, I think big things could potentially happen here. So I'm pumped for this, man.
I would love, especially where they left things off with the last Spider-Man movie. I could easily see them doing like a thing where Punisher thinks that Spider-Man killed Peter Parker and tried to erase all evidence of his existence, and then boom, there you go. You got your conflict right there.
That would be pretty funny, man. I would love to see something along those lines. Who knows? Maybe J. Jonah Jameson hires him. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
For some reason to go take down this web slinger. So
Oh
the
my God.
possibilities are definitely there. I don't know how much of Jon Bernthal as the Punisher we'll see in Daredevil, but 18 episodes. How big of a role are you thinking he plays?
I'm gonna say as of now, probably 3 episodes. That's gonna be my prediction.
And it's also interesting too. I think we got to point this out, Stuart. Remember, we did do a Kevin Feige interview a couple weeks back where he talked about how they were going to be kind of going from serialized to episodic formats, and that they were going to be experimenting with that a little bit. And the fact that Daredevil was going to be one of those series that's kind of like full episodes from one episode actually having a beginning and an end, and not so much a lead into the next episode. How do you think something like that might work out for telling the story, but also including somebody like the Punisher in there? Because that is 18 episodes, but knowing how Marvel is changing their dynamic for this particular series, do you think it could still work, introducing the Punisher in sort of that one episode sort of dynamic?
Yeah, in fact, I think it gives them the advantage of not having to force them into the storyline, because if they want to have a one-off adventure that's like solely focused on a Punisher-like adventure, it'd be really easy to do that without having to find some like really bad excuse of how this all relates to the Punisher as well, and then trying to, basically as a writer having to give yourself like more hoops to jump through. I think just having an episodic episode that isn't necessarily connected to the main story is kind of the easiest way to do that.
And I do think that might even open up the doors for having more cameos in this particular show than I think a lot of us expect, especially if they can get away with the one episode storyline and kind of move on to something else. Like maybe Echo pops up in an episode or something like that. So I do think it should be interesting to see how this works. And if anything, I'm going to be interested to see how the fans sort of react to kind of the one episode at a time kind of format. I think maybe some episodes might be connected, but I definitely do think we'll certainly have our fair share of just standalone episodes.
Yeah, I think I think it's going to be structurally similar to like a CW superhero show. So like Arrow is kind of like what I'm expecting, where it's like there's an overarching villain for the season, but you'll still have kind of your episodic episodes in between.
Yeah, I think you're probably right in that regards. Marcelino says, "Sad we won't get the rest of the Daredevil characters. I really like those characters as those characters." Yeah, I think as far as like the actors portraying those characters, I think they did a great job. I like so that's one of the reasons why I would be really bummed in regards to not having Foggy back. What's up, Nathan? Good to see you in here, man. He says, Disney Marvel can't impress me, but it's not about me. Some fans seem to love what they got from Daredevil and She-Hulk, so I'm sure they will love Disney's The Punisher. Well, again, it's not necessarily The Punisher getting his own series. They are introducing him at least into the Daredevil series. Whether or not he eventually does get his own Punisher series, who definitely knows? But yeah, I personally did like what I saw from Daredevil and She-Hulk. We did get some great action, She-Hulk versus Daredevil. I thought that was a cool little fight sequence that we wind up having between them. But I didn't mind the idea of seeing a more light-sided light-hearted side of Matt Murdock. I do feel like it was kind of teased in Netflix from time to time in regards to just the charm that Matt Murdock has, his timing when it comes to his sense of humor, especially how he, that type of thing. But it definitely focused a lot more on the dark side of things. So it's just one of those things, Stuart, when it comes to how people felt about the portrayal of Daredevil and She-Hulk. Everybody has different personality traits to them.
Mhm.
And I don't think it's a wrong thing in highlighting some traits more than others from time to time to kind of show how of a complete character that they certainly are. You know what I mean? But apparently it definitely has some fans worrying. Do you feel it's a rightful worry or what?
Um, it's a worry that I can understand, but I also
Mhm.
disagree with because like you said, we see him in a whole new light in She-Hulk because at this point, he's not going through all the tragedies that he's been going through in his Daredevil show, which gives him the opportunity to be a lot more humorous, which he wasn't able, which he got to do in sprinkles throughout his show, but it's kind of hard to like tell a bunch of jokes when your main villain is a dude that's like smashing other people's head through car doors and things like that. So, when you see him in a show like She-Hulk, of course you're going to see that more light side to him. But then in his own show, depending on how they play this, which I am really hoping that they give this show like an MA rating, because I really do think Daredevil works really well when his stories are very dark. So I do hope the show is kind of one of the more darker Marvel shows, and I hope we get to see that side of Daredevil again from the Netflix show. But I wouldn't mind seeing glimpses of oh, sorry. Yeah, I forgot this was all related to the Punisher. My bad. So all that to say, if the show is a darker show, we will see the same type of Punisher that we got in the Netflix Punisher series. Maybe he'll be a little better off because he's had time in between seasons, so
Mhm.
maybe he's had time to get his head a little more straight since then. But I do think for the most part, it will be basically the same Punisher.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely understand the worry for sure, but I just don't think we should automatically assume that one thing is going to be one thing just because something else was something else. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's really I have to wait and see, and I think we should give it opportunity to
Yeah.
prove itself.
Yeah, definitely give the show the benefit of the doubt, or just give it the chance, because none of us even know what kind of tone the show is really going for at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, guys, let us know your levels of anticipation for the return of Jon Bernthal as the Punisher. I know we've been asking for it forever. Jon Bernthal's been a man of his words and his dedication to the Frank Castle character. So if Jon Bernthal's coming back, I have faith that they're going to pull off the Punisher just fine. But let us know your thoughts, levels of anticipation, your worry in the live chat or the comment section box below. And with that, guys, we will move on from the Daredevil topic, but we will stay within the MCU as big old Papa Bob Iger. The current head honcho over at Disney. He came in and booted Bob Chapek out a few months ago, and he's been doing his best to try and right the ship. and get things back on course. And one of the things he's recently been pretty open talking about is sort of the new strategy that Disney is going to be embarking on when it comes to a lot of their franchises, especially Marvel and I'm about to say DC, especially Marvel and Star Wars. We've already heard him talk about the idea of you know, how things are certainly going to change, maybe quantity over or quality over quantity sort of concept. But Bob Iger is back in the news, talking a little bit about Marvel and possibly a new strategy when it comes to their perception of Marvel Studios. And so I thought this was pretty interesting, Stuart, and I wanted to pick your brain to kind of see if we agree with Bob Iger here, or if we have some differences. And like, are they looking at the same data that we're looking at and coming to a different conclusion, or what is it? But I think it should be interesting with all the hesitancy that people seem to have when it comes to the MCU. Phase 4 kind of being a little bit more mediocre than I think some people would expect when it comes to the first 3 phases of Marvel. The big question is, has Marvel sort of spread themselves so thin with so many projects within a short amount of time? Has it sort of diluted what was the Marvel Cinematic Universe as they attempt to bring us into this current phase of the multiverse saga? So Bob Iger this week sat down and did an interview, and let's go ahead and pick his brain here, Stuart. This actually comes to us from IndieWire.com. Let me go ahead and pull this up. According to them, it says Bob Iger questions Marvel sequels, needs to bring back characters. You're going to see a lot of newness, is what he says here. So let's go ahead and dive into this. It says Marvel Studios is never shy to bring back a fan favorite character or give an old favorite a sequel. Over 24 years and 31 movies, the only characters that have been officially retired are a few tentpoles like Chris Evans' Captain America and Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man. But according to Disney CEO Bob Iger, the studio's upcoming slate is all about going to be introducing fresh faces and less about bringing back old stalwarts. During Disney's Thursday presentation, Iger spoke about the future of Marvel at the company. During the next 5 years, Iger said Disney would reevaluate whether certain characters need sequels or need to be brought back at all. He says Marvel, there were 7,000 characters. There are a lot more stories to tell, is what he said. What we have to look at Marvel is not necessarily the volume of Marvel storytelling, but how many times we go back to the well on certain characters. Sequels typically work well for us. Do you need a third or a fourth, or is it time to turn to other characters? There's nothing in any way inherently off in terms of the Marvel brand. I think we just have to look at what characters or stories we're mining. If you looked at the trajectory of Marvel over the next 5 years, we're going to see a lot of newness. We're going to turn back to the Avengers franchise, but with a whole set of different Avengers. Okay. So let me just say this off the rip. I think we kind of have been expecting the concept of a whole set of different Avengers. When he says we're going to turn back the Avengers franchise, but with a whole set of different Avengers. I think they've definitely been doing that in regards to setting up this youthful turnout. A lot of people have been suggesting, hey, Young Avengers is coming. Young Avengers is coming. While it may not necessarily be a Young Avengers solo film, that Young Avengers team could very well be the Avengers team of maybe Kang Dynasty, of Secret Wars, whatever the case may be. So when he says a whole set of different Avengers, I think that's what he's personally referring to, but that simply could be me. A couple things that kind of have issues with here. He says we have to look at Marvel as not necessarily we have to look at Marvel is not necessarily the volume of Marvel storytelling. I personally do think that they do. I think the volume of storytelling has really hurt them just because of the fact that it has sort of stretched them thin. The more stories that you're telling, I do wonder if maybe we're not having the same levels of quality assurance as we certainly used to. And I think a lot of that is due to the volume of stories that you are certainly telling. He says, but he doesn't think that's the problem. He says, but the problem being, but how many times can you go back to the well on certain characters? Sequels typically work well for us. Do you need a third or a fourth, or is it time to other characters? I actually find that laughable. And the only reason why I find that laughable is, Bob, you're literally the one that just greenlit a Toy Story 5, bro. Like, you greenlit Toy Story 5. So the idea of, yeah, sequels do work well for you. You should keep sticking with them if they're working well for you. Do you need a third or a fourth? Yeah, if people like these characters, if people like these stories, keep telling stories. You believe that with Toy Story 4, Toy Story 5, and you keep pushing it because you know it's $1 billion and because you know people love these characters. So people will, in fact, keep coming back for them. So the idea of going back to the well on certain characters makes perfect sense to me, honestly. The problem with Thor isn't the fact that Thor has 4 movies. The problem with Thor is that nobody kept Taika Waititi enclosed in the idea of telling an actual good story. Why could that be, Bob? Maybe because the volume of Marvel storytelling has gotten just dwindled to the point of, nobody really keeping the quality assurance in these storylines. And so I think when you start being stretched too thin, you start having not great scripts being written, yet being greenlit, and people are filming this stuff. And unfortunately, it's not always hitting with the fans the same way that it's certainly used to. So I don't think the concept of sequels is bad. I think if we've got a Captain America 4 movie that's coming out that's starring Anthony Mackie, are you going to tell me Anthony Mackie doesn't deserve his own story? No, just make Captain America 4 a great script. Bring in the right people, sit down and make sure this is the story that is going to work. And as long as you have that, similar to what you're doing with Toy Story 5, I'm sure you wouldn't greenlight Toy Story 5 unless you've got a great story. So I don't think there's anything wrong with bringing back some of these characters that we're familiar with because people love these characters. I think if there's been any complaint, Stuart, I think it's probably been the idea that there's too many new characters. While we have personally, don't get me wrong, while we have personally enjoyed, say, characters like a Moon Knight, a Miss Marvel, we may not necessarily be thrilled about some of the series and the levels of storytelling, but these characters have definitely jumped out at us. But I do think there's a lot of people that would complain there's almost too much newness without having that sort of great balance of old and new. And because of the idea that I think these people love their characters, and I think we love having such a connective tissue and such a connected story, that we still want those characters that we fell in love with from phase 1, 2, and 3 to still have some sort of impact kind of going forward and following those characters as you introduce new ones in here. So, I usually agree with what Bob Iger has to say, but there are times in here, Stuart, that I'm just trying to figure out what they're looking at and what they're deciphering to come up with some of this information of theirs. And who knows, maybe there are some people out there that absolutely agree with Bob Iger, and I would definitely love to hear some of those opinions. But let me kick this over to you, Stuart. Are you one of those people that agree with Bob Iger saying? Maybe you're looking at this in a different way that I'm certainly thinking, but I want to know your thoughts when you hear this type of stuff. And I'll read it for you again. Marvel, there are 7,000 characters. There's a lot more stories to tell. What we have to look at Marvel is not necessarily the volume of Marvel storytelling, but how many times we go back to the well on certain characters. Sequels typically work well for us. Do you need a third or fourth, or is it time to turn to new characters? There's nothing in any way inherently off in terms of the Marvel brand. I think we just have to look at what characters or stories we're mining. And if you look at the trajectory of Marvel over the next 5 years, we're going to see a lot of newness. And he talks about the idea of turning the Avengers around. What are your thoughts in regards to what he's got to say?
I mean, here's the biggest thing that kind of annoys me about everything he's talking about currently. You're literally describing what Marvel has already been kind of doing for the most part.
Yeah.
You're not telling us anything new. This is literally what Phase 4 has been kind of mostly about. Yes, you've been getting sequels to characters like Thor, Doctor Strange, and Spider-Man. I think Thor was like the only one that really felt like, okay, we're just returning to the well because we know it makes money. Whereas like the other characters we came back to, we didn't come back to them because, well, I mean, obviously it was partially for money, because every movie's about making money, but it was also because we were trying to complete a story with them. Their stories hadn't been finished. Spider-Man, had like literally left off on a cliffhanger. We didn't go back to that movie just because we wanted to make money. We went back to that movie because we wanted to see how his story would wrap it at the end of his trilogy. Doctor Strange, he had a sequel, and if I want to see a third Doctor Strange movie, not just because I really like Doctor Strange 2, but because again, it ended on a cliffhanger and we want to see how that wraps up. So I don't know what he's talking about and saying that we're constantly going back to the same characters, like in that way. Like the only thing I could kind of see if he's talking about like bringing these characters back in other projects too many times, then fine, that's there's an argument for that, I guess. Like for example, like when you bring in Doctor Strange into Spider-Man, like okay, cool, fair enough if that's what you're talking about, but I don't think that's what he was talking about. I think he's talking about making too many sequels for Marvel characters. And again, with the exception of Thor, no one's gotten more than a trilogy of sequels. So I have no idea what he's talking about with this. I think the problem has just been too much in each year. And I think there's, you mentioned it before, balance. I think, to quote a song from Steven Universe, balance is the key. I think DC has it right. 2 movies, 2 TV shows. Obviously, we haven't seen how this is going to play out yet, but it sounds like a good way to balance it out. If you really want to balance it out, how about this? A sequel a year, a new character a year, or a movie that introduces a new character a year, a TV show that comes back to a character we already know, and a TV show that introduces a new character, something like that. I think to just kind of say, oh, we want to drop all the new characters and kind of just focus on new ones is quite idiotic, if that's what he means. Again, it's bizarre because it's hard to tell exactly what he's talking about, because again, it's like he's just describing Marvel Phase 4. Yeah. So I've loved what he's done in the past, but I feel like his course correction, I think the problem might actually just be that he came into a studio with debt and hasn't looked at what actually has caused that debt. You know what I mean? So
You might be right.
Yeah.
You might be right. I also wonder if he looked at Ant-Man and was like, Ant-Man's got a trilogy. Like, if there's any character maybe that I can kind of see his issues with, like the idea of Ant-Man getting a trilogy seems, I don't want to say crazy, but I wasn't necessarily the biggest fan of Ant-Man and the Wasp. But I get the idea of them wanting to finish off somebody's movie or story arc. So, maybe Bob is feeling some type of way, the fact that the Ant-Man trilogy and its completion, the third one maybe didn't necessarily make as much money financially as they were certainly hoping for. So maybe he's in his feelings and feeling some type of way. And he's like, no, this is why we can't keep some of these characters around for so long. Like, you're going to tell me you're not going to do another Spider-Man movie because he's going to be going on his 4th one. So are we going to say farewell to Tom Holland? Get out of here with that. Like, that's just not the case. I just think, like you mentioned, there's just got to be a much better balance and a much greater attention being made to the scripts and the screenplays that are being presented for these movies, to make sure that these characters truly live on and make people want to go to the movie theaters to certainly see them. So again, I have no problem with keeping around some of these older characters, especially if you're going to be balancing them out with brand new ones. But we're here for the characters. And as long as the characters and their stories are well told, we'll come back for a Captain America 6, man, if you've got some great stories to be told out there. So hopefully they find themselves an interesting balance going forward, Stuart. And last but not least, he did say this about Star Wars. He says, Iger also addressed another Disney tentpole, Lucasfilm Star Wars, during the call. The franchise has mostly been co-signed to Disney Plus since The Rise of Skywalker ended the sequel trilogy. And earlier this week, it was reported that two films in development, Patty Jenkins' Rogue Squadron and an untitled project from Marvel Studios head Kevin Feige, have been shelved. Iger explained that Disney wanted to pause their release of films in the franchise after their commercial disappointment of spin-off film Solo. He says Solo was a little bit of a disappointment to us. It gave us pause just to think maybe the cadence was a little too aggressive, so we decided to pull back a bit. We still are developing Star Wars films. We're going to be making sure that we make one that's the right one. So we're being really careful there. So some hopes for Lucasfilm fans and Star Wars fans that they are understanding some of their mistakes and certainly trying to correct them. I think the fact that we haven't had a Star Wars movie officially announced in quite some time is key to that. So I am expecting when we get to Star Wars Celebration, some Star Wars movies to be announced. If not one, then maybe at least two. But I think if they are announced, I think they're pretty far along in their production, like really ready to kind of get into in front of cameras relatively soon. But what do you think in regards to what he had to say about just Solo and just the idea of Star Wars movies? Oh, I think you're muted.
I think again, with Solo, the big thing that caused like the not so great box office numbers for it was really they I think they over anticipated how hardcore a lot of Star Wars fans were. I think they kind of thought they could release this prequel, introduce like new elements like Darth Maul and things like that, and hope that it wouldn't confuse anyone. But of course, you know, not everyone who likes Star Wars is like a huge Star Wars fan. So when you release a movie like Han Solo, you have it take place, you know, clearly during the era of an empire, but then you introduce Darth Maul. You're going to have casual viewers be like, wait, what the hell? And then on top of that, the fact that it was 5 months after we had just gotten a Star Wars movie that was very controversial, to the point where like people who even liked The Last Jedi were probably just sick of hearing people bitch about Star Wars and therefore just didn't want to watch any more Star Wars because of it. So yeah, I don't think the poor box office numbers for Solo was really because of the quality of the movie. I think it was just because of the timing they released it. So I think if they want to do more Star Wars movies, go for it. They just need to be careful about how they release it. You know, Star Wars isn't quite the comic books, or isn't quite like Marvel and DC comic books. You can't release two Star Wars movies a year and hope that you're going to get like great box office numbers for both of them. They do need to be a little bit more spread out.
Yeah, I definitely don't think it helped. Like you mentioned, the idea of The Last Jedi and then them dropping a Solo. It's almost one of those things where I feel like they decided to pull the trigger on this project because with the death of Han Solo in The Force Awakens, I almost feel like they were like, oh, people are going to miss this character when he's gone. So maybe we should do a film in regards to him, but we're not going to bring back Harrison Ford that everybody truly wants to see. We're going to recast Han Solo in a movie that nobody's really asking for right now. You know what I mean? So it's like, I think it definitely was the timing. I totally agree with that. I think it was definitely the timing of when this film was. If it was a couple years afterwards, or if it was something that they were possibly working on now, maybe it's something that more people would certainly go back to definitely check out. Datilla says, disappointed that we didn't get a sequel. You know, I am a little disappointed that we didn't necessarily get one. Do I need one? No, not really. I feel like they could probably have accomplished a sequel in like a television form if they want to. I still think we live in the world where some of these characters might come back or could potentially come back if we ever get that Lando Donald Glover series. I don't even know if that's actually even happening anymore. But if we were to go down that Lando series role, I can see somebody like Alden Ehrenreich coming back as Solo, Emilia Clarke coming back as Kira, and maybe having Darth Maul play some sort of role in that too. So I do think there's a possibility where we do get a television series that brings back these characters. But yeah, I don't expect a Solo 2 to certainly ever happen. It's a little bit of a bummer because I feel like the more and more I see the film, it continues to be like, yeah, this is actually a pretty enjoyable film.
Mm-hmm. I always had this idea for a sequel that could have been a direct prequel to the Force, A New Hope. Basically, the idea is it would be about the mission where Han Solo had to drop the cargo, and then therefore had the big bounty on his head from Jabba the Hutt.
For
The idea
Jabba.
being that, like, unknown to Han Solo or Jabba the Hutt, Boba Fett, because he was working with the Empire at the time, was the one who tipped the Empire off about the cargo that Han Solo had, and then that would be kind of like how the movie would end, with Han Solo in kind of a no-win situation type thing.
I kind of dig it, man. I kind of dig it. That'd be a great little lead in for his character going into A New Hope for sure. But yeah, guys, let us know your thoughts. What do you guys think about how Bob Iger is certainly viewing the MCU currently? Does this make you concerned? Do you think they're looking at the wrong things? Maybe you completely agree with Bob Iger. Definitely go ahead and let me know your guys' thoughts in the live chat or the comment section box below. And with that, guys, we will move on to our next topic. We're going to go from Marvel to DC here and get into the world of animation. We started off this show talking highly about the idea of James Gunn wanting to tackle a Wonder Woman animated series. I think a lot of us probably grew up, whether that be on Superman animated series, Batman animated series, a Justice League animated series, Justice League Unlimited for some of you guys out there. I think there's a lot of people that have certainly been wanting to see animated series certainly make a return. Big fans of Young Justice out there for sure, but it does seem as though Batman is making his return to animated series. But a couple of weeks ago, a couple of months ago, it was explained to us that Batman Cape Crusader was no longer going to be attached to HBO Max, that they were actually shopping the animated series Batman Cape Crusader out there towards other streaming services. And this week, ladies and gentlemen, we finally have figured out the landing spot. So for those of you out there who have been wanting another animated series for Batman, you've got one coming. Let's go ahead and break this down. This is coming to us from the Hollywood Reporter. Batman Cape Crusader moves to Amazon with a 2-season order, Stuart, a 2-season order. So they definitely are looking quite forward to this. It says Batman Cape Crusader has found a new home at Amazon. The streamer and retail giant has handed out a 2-season order for the animated series, which was originally set up at HBO Max. It says they scraped Warner Brothers Discovery scrapped the show in August, more than a year after it was ordered straight to series amid a round of cost cutting. Other streamers, including Netflix, Apple, and Hulu, also kicked the tires on the project that marks the reunion for executive producers J.J. Abrams and Matt Reeves. And I believe Bruce Timm. Yeah, the animated series hails from Bruce Timm, Abrams, and Reeves, and was sold to the streaming rival as part of Warner Brothers Discovery's efforts to monetize content by selling projects to third-party buyers. So yeah, I feel like David Zaslav has come out in the past and mentioned that this is something that they wanted to be able to do, was to sell off some of their properties, really diversify, not necessarily keep everything on HBO Max. And this certainly seems like this is one of their first projects in order to go ahead and do this. So Stuart, let me throw this to you. Do you think this is a good move by Warner Brothers Discovery to send this off to Amazon? How do you feel about this particular move, and are you excited for the series?
Yeah, I think I think I remember mentioning this before, but at the very least, if it's a project that you don't want to do, but has a lot of potential or something that people want to see, at least they're willing to sell it off to other companies and let them do it. So it becomes kind of a win-win for both companies. Yeah, I kind of would have liked to have. I would have liked to have had all my DC content on one streaming service. That's right. Sorry, it was Dead Boys Detectives when I brought this up. It'd be nice to have all my DC content on one streaming service, but I kind of get why they can't because of the way streaming works. It does kind of make sense the way they're looking at it. I kind of disagree again with the way they're looking at it, but I get where they're coming from in a way. When you create like an original content for your streaming service, you want it to be a show that's going to get new subscribers. That's how they get their money, is new subscriptions. And in David Zaslav's mind, I guess he doesn't think that, while he thinks that Batman Cape Crusader could be a successful show with lots of viewers, I guess he doesn't see it as a show that's going to bring in more subscriptions, but Amazon does, and that's why he probably sold it to Amazon for that specific reason. And yeah, it's like, even though I prefer to have all my DC content on one streaming service and not have to like have them all spread out, I'd rather have it spread out than not have it at all. So I'm just happy we're getting this show. Again, it's got an amazing team behind it. I really hope, I know that they didn't mention his name, or they did mention his name, but it doesn't sound like he's still working on it. But I do hope that Bruce Timm is still kind of involved, because I think that between Bruce Timm, Matt Reeves, and J.J. Abrams, I think that's a combination for a TV show that has a lot of potential.
Yeah, I love the combination of all three of these men on here. It definitely gives me confidence in what this series could potentially be. But I am in agreement with you. I think the idea of moving it over to Amazon, I do wonder if David Zaslav is doing this in order to kind of clear the decks for what James Gunn is doing. Like, I wonder if he's like, if this isn't necessarily a part of what James Gunn is doing, we kind of want it to be sort of elsewhere, and maybe keeping stuff that is connected to that overall world a little bit more closer to home. Again, I don't know if that's necessarily the reason why he's doing it, but it certainly could be one of them. But it does say animation, meanwhile, remains a major area of investment for networks and streamers alike. In addition to repeating well on streaming services, original ideas become extremely lucrative, thanks in part to the ability to turn characters into lines of merchandising. So yeah, Batman Cape Crusader, and I believe we got Indy here. I believe Indy is able to join us. I am kind of curious to hear his thoughts in regards to Cape Crusader being moved over to Amazon. Let me go ahead and bring him in here. What's up, brother?
What's
Good to
going
see you,
on?
man.
What's going on? My
Got
bad,
you
I'm
mid.
late.
No, you're good. You're good, man. I want to hear. I think you've been listening to the story behind the scenes. So let me pick your brain here a little bit. What are your thoughts on this move for Batman Cape Crusader? Are you eager for the series?
Very eager for the series. Very eager for Batman animated. Getting away from the goofiness of some of the other ones and getting back to something that's more similar to, I feel, which would be similar more to the animated series. You know what I'm saying? Style content. That's what I'm looking forward to. The move to Amazon is nothing new. We've seen a lot of shows not be picked up, or a lot of shows not survive on certain networks and move to others, i.e. Supergirl, just to dig in at the end of the Arrowverse to people. But yeah, I think for Amazon it's a good move. I mean, they already have Invincible, they already have The Boys, you know what I'm saying, to add Batman per se to that lineup. It's very interesting to me, and it also makes me think that if shows like Harley Quinn, or what I'm saying, other shows that are very interesting to a lot of people, don't survive on a HBO or Discovery platform, that there's also an opportunity for them to move over to Amazon.
Yeah, it's a good point. It definitely does open up the doors for other streaming services to pick up some of this content that maybe HBO Max doesn't want to produce anymore. And you're right, the lineup at Amazon continues to grow, because I think they just picked up the rights for Lord of the Rings. They're doing big things there. We have literally the next topic that we're going to talk about is Amazon picking up another franchise. But then they also got God of War, I think, from the video game side of things also. So Amazon's just stacking up the IP properties to go ahead and create some great content over on Amazon Prime. So if you guys don't have an Amazon Prime account, you might want to pick one up rather soon to make sure you're catching all this. But I think for me, the idea of J.J. Abrams, Matt Reeves, and Bruce Timm being a part of this does give me hope that this is going to be a great series. I mean, I think a lot of us love what Matt Reeves was able to do for the Batman movie itself. And if he can kind of bring some of that crime drama a little bit to the flair that J.J. Abrams likes to bring out, and then you have somebody that has the experience like Bruce Timm that's been attached to anything animated when it comes to Batman over the years, that's your experience right there, along with make art style and whatever the case may be. So I am really eager to kind of see just the mind meld that these three geniuses certainly might have in regards to bringing Batman to life when it comes to animated form. So I'm really looking forward to it, man. I do think Amazon's got a huge win under their belt here, and I think it's as much as I personally would like to have seen it stay on HBO Max. I think David Zaslav financially is trying to certainly do his best in regards to, what he can cut, but yet still make money off of. And so we'll see how well this is certainly going to do for him. Enrique does says, is production on a new Batman Cape Crusader going to take months? I'm under the impression that it's kind of already in development, right? Like they've been working on this for quite some time now. When you agree?
I think so. Because I mean, even if the full on production hasn't begun yet, it's definitely been in pre-production for quite some time. So they've definitely, the writers and the producers have definitely had a lot of time to plan. So I think the actual production side of things will definitely take quite a while, at least probably a year in my opinion. But I do think for the most part they probably at least have something outlined and planned out.
Yeah, I definitely hope so. So hopefully, as far as how it's going to take months, I don't think they've given us a release date as of yet, but I would probably assume dropping sometime in 2024. But who certainly knows when that might be. But we'll definitely keep you guys posted once we get brand new information. But big things are happening over at Amazon. But let us know your guys' thoughts in regards to Batman Cape Crusader. Are you eager and looking forward to the animated series itself? And do you think this is a big win for Amazon, or do you think HBO Max should have held on to this one? Definitely go ahead and let us know your thoughts in the live chat or the comment section box below. And with that, guys, we are going to take a jump from Marvel and DC to dive into some movie news for you guys today. Let's go ahead and start talking a little bit about the most recent blockbuster over at in the box office right now. Creed is back in the news. If you guys have not had the opportunity to check out Creed 3 yet, starring Michael B. Jordan and Jonathan Majors, Michael B. Jordan doing his directorial debut as well. Stuart, can you pull up the box office for Creed 3 as of right now? Michael B. Jordan has been making his rounds. After a very successful outing, I believe Creed 3 is probably the highest grossing Creed movie as far as opening weekend that we've seen so far, and the trajectory continues to go up for this particular franchise. And with the excitement everybody has certainly had after checking out Creed 3, the big question certainly has been, where do you go from here? And Michael B. Jordan certainly has a lot of ideas up his sleeve. As we just got done talking about Amazon, well, Amazon is back in the news as they are in fact throwing around the idea with Michael B. Jordan of expanding this particular franchise and creating a Creed verse. Everything's a verse, multiverse, a Spider-Verse. Now we're going to get ourselves a Creed verse. And so it'll be interesting to kind of pick everybody's brain here to see just how much content can we actually mine from a Creed verse. But let's go ahead and dive into this article here because Michael B. Jordan is back in the news. As they are, in fact, talking about what Amazon is purchasing right now or looking forward to building. It says, this is from Deadline.com. Michael B. Jordan spearheading Creedverse in works at Amazon across film and TV. It says Creed already broke ground for Amazon with the latest installment in the MGM movie franchise. Creed 3 racking up a 100 million plus global opening and setting a box office record for the tech giant. Now Creed could spawn an Amazon universe spanning both film and TV. There have been meetings with the franchise and filmmaker, the franchise star and filmmaker Michael B. Jordan about various Creed-related projects for the past year, sources said. The plans for the scope of the universe have gotten bolder in the wake of Creed 3's big debut. Reps for Amazon and Jordan unfortunately declined to comment. Details are sketchy because some of these conversations are still in exploratory stages, but we hear that an anime series connected to the Rocky spinoff IP is in the works, and there are ideas for a companion live action TV series. Also percolating is a potential project centering on Adonis Creed's daughter, Amara, who was played by deaf actress Mila Davis Kent in Creed 3, making her film acting debut. As previously announced, there's also been a Drago spin-off movie in the works. The film would center on Rocky Balboa's foe, Russian boxer Ivan Drago, Dolph Lundgren, and his son Victor Drago, who was introduced in Creed's adversary in Creed 2. There had been some chatter that the Drago offshoot could lend itself to a series, but according to sources, the intention remains to keep it as a movie. So far, a script has been commissioned, but it is unclear whether it could be made. Of course, there's also the prospect of more feature Creed installments, with various other ideas also being thrown around for live action and animated movies. And it says, through 3 movies, the Creed franchise is approaching $500 million mark at the global box office. So it's making some big moves here. So Indy, since you are joining us here, again, they did say that all of this is still in exploratory stages. So nothing is concrete, but with the success of Creed 3, hey, we got some fresh ideas. Possible animated series, a companion live action TV series. Heck, we might get a Drago movie, a series for, something with Creed's daughter, and of course, more Creed films. After the success, Indy, of Creed 3, how do you feel about them expanding it even more going forward?
Let's not just talk about the success of Creed 3. Let's talk about the success of Creed as a trilogy, you know what I'm saying, to start off with. And the fact that for this one in particular to do so well, for Michael B. Jordan to be at the helm, you know what I'm saying, producing this particular film, and where he took his inspiration for this film from, you know what I'm saying, being a huge anime fan, I believe this in particular is one of the best, things to take and be, you know what I'm saying, its own type of universe, especially with the different type of range they're going to go. We got stories for people, like you say, Drago and his son, that we're interested in. I'm interested in what Drago went through after, you know what I'm saying, he lost to Rocky. You know what I'm saying, how his son grew up with that. That's a compelling story, you know, and we only get a piece of it, you know, in the Creed movie, in that was Creed 2, wasn't it?
Creed 2, yeah.
In Creed 2, we only get a piece of that. And it'd be interesting to see what happened before then and after, you know what I'm saying, the fight, because you get some of these fighters, do they just stop? Do they stop fighting altogether after losing to Adonis? You know what I'm saying? It makes
career's
no sense
over.
Yeah, career's over. Lost to Adonis. I have no more career. You know, there's something that has to go on after that. The thing I'm most excited about, animation. Not animation in particular, anime in particular. Anybody who saw Creed and saw that last fight, understood exactly where that was drawn from. You know what I'm saying? Dragon Ball fight scenes, Naruto fight scenes, even the punch to punch, you know what I'm saying, scene we got taken straight from, you know what I'm saying, Super Saiyan Goku and Majin Vegeta. You know, that the way that was shot, I don't think anybody other than Michael B. Jordan, you know what I'm saying, and his love for anime could put that together. So if you think about an anime series following, whether it's his daughter, you know what I'm saying, or maybe his fights that we didn't see, you know, because he had plenty of fights before he had these big fights that he had. Maybe his following those, but in the form of Kuroko no Basket, Mega Blocks, you know what I'm saying, like it just, that art style would be, you know, amazing. And I believe it's something that's very doable with, like we said, with Invincible, with Crusader. That's something that'll fit right in the Amazon pocket to build that anime catalog. So let's see what we do. If anything, that, and expand from that.
Yeah, I like some of the ideas for sure. I like your enthusiasm for what this Creed verse could potentially turn into. Stuart, briefly before we get into the like what projects you would certainly like to see, what do you think about this in regards to the Creed verse? Do you think there's more projects that's worth mining from this? Do you think this is a good move, especially after seeing something like a Creed 3? Do you want more of this world?
Do I personally want more of this world? Sure. I'd love to see them expand it. However, I'm not sure if the universe would be as popular as they think it's going to be. So personally for me, I think like while these ideas are ambitious and really cool, I just hope they don't try to force them all out at once and they try to like
Mhm,
take their time
mhm,
with it, see
mhm.
whether or not there's actually, an interest from the audience before kind of like moving on with each project one after another, instead of just releasing all of them at once and hoping that they all do really well together. You know what I mean? In other words, I
Yeah.
don't want this to make the same mistake as, early Disney Star Wars in a way. But yeah, I do think overall, I definitely love the idea of an anime series that takes place in the Creed verse for sure. And I think that, like Indy was mentioning, how you could definitely tell from watching Creed 3 that there was like a lot of anime influence that definitely went into it. So I would love to see that being taken in a kind of literal kind of way by actually making an anime based in that universe.
Yeah, I'm definitely in agreement with both of you in that regards. I will say this one thing that when I when I read this story, the one thing that really jumps out at me too is Michael B. Jordan really working hard to give people opportunities.
Mhm.
And what I mean by that is the little girl that played Amara in Creed 3, right? Now it's like, hey, she did such a good job. Maybe we can give her some sort of content for her to kind of work at, right? Helping support another young up and coming actress, giving her an opportunity. Jonathan Majors already has a ton on his plate. Is this an opportunity for Jonathan Majors to kind of be, um, coming, not recasting, but coming back as Damian Anderson at some point in time, giving possibly Jonathan Majors opportunities for him to certainly come back to. So the guy that plays Drago in here, right? Continuing to build opportunities for some of his cast members and friends so they can go on and have great careers and be lucrative themselves. So I really appreciate Michael B. Jordan's mindset of not just kind of staying enclosed in just this one, hey, we're just going to make movies sort of thing, but really being able to see what the potential is going to be like for what you could carry this to. I would agree with you, Stuart, also in the sense that they do have to be careful, right? Like, I don't necessarily know if you can knock out all of this stuff that they want to do in, say, 1 or 2 years sort of thing. Definitely spread it out if that's the route that you're going to go. And maybe some of these, again, this is just very much exploratory. Some of these concepts and ideas may not be picked up whatsoever, right? But I do think that Creed has established itself to the point of it's like if you want to expand more, you can, because it's like you see the trajectory just going up and up and up. Creed, the first Creed was great. Creed 2 did even better at the box office, and now Creed 3 is doing better at the box office. So there is an appetite here for this world to definitely be explored, but you definitely have to be careful what you launch and what you certainly don't launch. And if anything, I am kind of hoping that while this is very much a Creed verse, I am hoping that Sylvester Stallone, in some capacity, is attached to this, even if it's just executive producer, right? I don't necessarily need him to be a writer or a director or even starring in a lot of this stuff. But just considering where Creed came from the Rocky franchise, I hope somebody like Sylvester Stallone at least has some say in some of the content that certainly goes out there. I do think that this has very much become a Michael B. Jordan sort of property, but if anything, the roots certainly very much are still Rocky Balboa. And I think for me, that's one of the things I still kind of appreciated about Creed 3 is that even though Rocky wasn't in the movie, and there were certainly times I kind of missed that inspirational speech from Rocky. There are hints in this movie of Adonis sort of remembering and still taking the advice and the mentorship of what Rocky taught him into his particular battles. And I think for me, it just really made it a full circle for me at the end of the day. So I'm really looking forward to it, honestly. Um, Now let me ask you, um, if anything, let's go around the room. I'll start with Stuart first, and then I'll come to me and then you, Indy. So Stuart, what projects would you like to see come out of this, even if it's already been mentioned in the article? What projects of those would you personally like to see, and do you have any original projects from the Creedverse you would like to see highlighted too?
Well, I like the idea of a Drago spin-off movie. I think that'd be the form it would work best at as a movie instead of a TV show. For the anime, I feel like doing kind of a prequel, like there's two different types of prequels they could totally do with it. An Apollo Creed prequel would definitely be really interesting to see. And if they want to almost if they almost want to step away from boxing completely, I mean, you could also do a Rocky prequel about like, kind of him coming to America, trying to find opportunity, but discovering that, the easiest way to make money for himself at the moment is to work with a couple of gangsters because he was like, working for that one dude, breaking people's thumbs who weren't, paying him back on time, that kind of a thing. It would be interesting to see how he got that job. So a prequel would be a cool route to go for an anime. As for like kind of a TV show, live action TV show, I think doing a series for Damien and having it really focus on him, like now he's out of prison and now he's trying to basically move back into society, and he's trying to like find his place in this new world. I feel like that'd be like a really interesting route that you could take it. You could do some really good social commentary in there if you wanted to. Yeah, I think those are some ideas that I would go with if I was like in the writing room, I guess.
Yeah, I dig some of those ideas. I feel like the idea of a Rocky prequel is kind of being might actually be being thrown around also. So we'll see how they certainly execute that. If I had some projects, one of the things I did like is something that Indy definitely said. I love the idea of an animated series following Adonis, and it would certainly take place between Creed 2 and Creed 3. Because I think for me, I was kind of surprised going into Creed 3 to hear like the idea of him already retired. I was like, wait, no, I wanted to see him still kind of in his prime, defending his titles and his belts and stuff. And so I think an anime series would really work in regards to following Adonis's career and some of the battles that he's kind of had to go through, title defenses and storylines and things like that leading up to Creed 3. I do think that there's a lot of potential in there. What I do think the idea of a Drago movie, like Indy said, is pretty compelling, but I'm personally okay if I don't see it. The compelling case is the idea that he also popped up in Creed 3. So he clearly has a connection to Adonis after the battle in Creed 2. So maybe that's a route that you go. The TV series side of things, I'm in agreement with you, Stuart. I love the idea of seeing something Damian Anderson, a Damian series, having Jonathan Majors kind of come back. And even though he was sort of like the older one out of the Creed 3 movie, I would be curious and see if even after the result of Creed 3, if he still decides to be a part of boxing. I do wonder if there's a story that certainly could be told for Damien at some point in time. And look, I love Jonathan Majors, so any excuse to bring him back, I'm certainly there for. As far as a television series for his daughter, I would be completely open to the idea of a television series for her. Because there's a part of me that thinks almost that by the end of this Creed property, that it's no longer going to be Adonis sort of at the forefront, but it'll be his daughter maybe carrying on the mantle to maybe lead her own Creed film. Whether or not that's a Creed 5 or Creed 6, who certainly knows, but I do think that there's a world we live in where we get one more Adonis Creed film, and then maybe passing the baton onto his daughter, whether that be a live action that then leads into a Creed 5 or 6, whatever the case certainly may be. But those are some of the projects I personally would like to see also. So I kind of like the mindset in which we're at. Indy, do you want to go over some of the ones that you had brought up a second ago, or do you have any other ones that we haven't mentioned that you're really eyeing?
I'm really interested in Bianca's life and career, what I'm saying, as well, being not only, what I'm saying, a performer, but a mother and a wife, what I'm saying, of a famous boxer, you know what I'm saying, champion boxer. So looking at how she's dealing with that and her own health issues would be interesting to me, even if it's like a mini series, you know what I'm saying, type thing, just something for that. Because to be honest with you, Tessa Thompson, like, she thrives in that particular role, you know what I'm saying. She is the Adrian, you know what I'm saying, of this series, if not more. So I'd be very happy for anything to come off of this if it has a specific story to tell. I
Right.
don't want anything that goes, oh, this is popular, so we're gonna do it for money. But the thing about with Michael B. Jordan and with just like Sylvester Stallone did not want to do a Rocky movie if the story wasn't there. You know what I'm saying? Like the story had to be there for him to do the movie. I kind of feel like Michael B. Jordan feels the same way about the characters he's plays. If there's nothing that's going to elevate this particular story of this person, whether it's a spinoff to somebody else or anything like that, there's no reason to do it. So I don't think they're going to do anything that doesn't mean something to the history of the character to start off with.
Yeah, no, I totally get you there also. I think if there's anyone that really stands out to me that I would like to see more than anything, the anime series. I think the idea of announcement of an anime series really surprised a lot of us, but just considering the influences that we just saw from Creed 3, from Michael B. Jordan, it almost feels like it almost writes itself. Like, yes, please, can we get an anime? So we'll see what winds up coming out of this. What's up, Carter? Good to see you in here today. He says, just me, but I think Michael B. Jordan wanting to do spinoffs of the Creed movies seems kind of like milking. I think some fans will not like that the Rocky franchise they grew up on is being expanded. There's too many spinoffs of other properties lately that are from the 80s and 90s. I would agree. I think there are a lot of people that feel maybe there's too many spinoffs of properties from the late 80s and 90s. But when I look at this, I kind of look at this as an expansion of a property that's pretty modern. I don't really look at this so much as an expansion of the Rocky franchise as I do more or less the Creed franchise, which is still relatively still new and going strong. So while I definitely understand your point of view, Carter, my pushback to that would just simply be, I guess the concept of milking for me kind of comes in the sense of if people didn't really care about this franchise and they're still trying to make money off of it. But I think the trajectory of where the Creed movies have gone have shown the opposite, that there is that people do enjoy these Creed films, the world that they're kind of in, and might be open to the idea of having this particular world expanded upon just a little bit more. Maybe not all the projects that they laid out happening, but maybe one or two in the sense of expanding this world, I think would certainly go a long way. But what do you guys think about that, though?
I'm just gonna come out and say this. I don't understand what Rocky fans have a place to complain when I feel like it might only be 2 Rocky movies that are better than any one of these Creed movies to start off with. So I feel like we're getting better storytelling, a better movie, and better acting. You know what I'm saying? When it comes off, I'm gonna be totally honest with you. Some of the Rocky movies I can't even watch unless I got subtitles on, because I can't understand what the hell Sylvester Stallone is saying half the time.
Shut
up. But to be totally honest with you, no, I feel like the Creed movies are one in its own. I don't necessarily look at them as spinoffs. To be honest, I look at them as inspired by. It's a story told through different eyes. As and we go to this a lot, but I'm gonna have to go to it as an African American male growing up. You know what I'm saying? And watching what Rocky did, I could get under the underdog story. Like, yay, you know what I'm saying? He did good, but I couldn't attach myself to that. You know what I'm saying? Seeing Adonis go through what he went through and not wanting to stand on his father's name and make stuff on his own. To me, that's a little bit more, relatable.
Personal,
watching him fight, watching him fight back against what America look at as him. You know what I'm saying? You're your father's son. No, I'm my own man. So I relate a little bit more to this Creed series than I do Rocky. Not saying that I don't love Rocky, but I'm telling you that Creed made me a bigger fan of the Rocky series than Rocky did.
And I definitely get you. And I think one, that's the power of inclusion and diversity for sure. Hitting home, but yet still at the same time not diminishing the legacy that is Rocky Balboa and Sylvester Stallone and what he certainly stood for and created. Like for me, while I love Creed 1 and 3, um, I still love me some great Rocky movies, man. I really do. 2, 3, and 4 are like some of my favorites. And I'm actually a big fan of Rocky Balboa as well, the sixth one also. So I do think there's a lot of great storytelling just within sort of this Rocky Creed franchise as a whole. And you mentioned something, the idea of Creed being more of an inspired. I guess that's kind of a, for me at least, I can kind of relate to what you're saying there. I don't know if I felt like Creed was kind of like a spin-off per se, just because of the involvement that um, Sylvester Stallone had as Rocky in the first 2 installments. It all pretty much just felt like a giant continuation to me also. So the idea of actually creating spin-offs feels still like a fresh concept to me when it comes to this particular franchise. I just think there's a lot of opportunity here for growth. And I think the box office is representing that. But did you have any last words you want to wrap this up with, Stuart?
Yeah, you mentioned earlier how like Michael B. Jordan seems to really love giving people some new opportunities and things like that. And I think this is a great way to do that. People have stories that they want to tell, and not a lot of opportunities to tell those stories. I think this could be that opportunity to tell them. It's just the only limitation they have is, oh yeah, these stories are going to be in the Creed verse. That's it. But you can tell, but why does it matter? People have amazing stories that they want to tell. Why does it matter what universe it takes place in? So I think if it gives people opportunities for both actors, writers, directors, all that kind of stuff, yeah, I definitely am all for it.
And Carter does say, you guys seem to not mind this franchise being expanded on by getting more spin-offs, but you have a problem with others. I don't get it. I mean, it's just
Well, it's a
Is he
personal.
referring to the Sonyverse getting like all the spin-offs? Because that'll be one where
no.
I'll make fun of only because they haven't been doing a good job of that. You know what I mean?
It's a different thing. Like I just stated, what was going on. There's a purpose and a story behind what's going on here. If Michael B. Jordan hadn't approved himself through these first 3 installments, I wouldn't be for anything happening else in what he did. But I'm looking at him taking control. This is this man taking control of this third movie. Help writing and producing, what I'm saying, this movie, putting himself on the line and it being uber successful, #1 in the box office. You know what I'm saying? I don't remember a Rocky movie doing that, to be totally honest with you.
I'm sure there might be
I'm
some
not
history.
saying thing. I was like, I don't remember it, what I'm saying, one doing that. But this is up against Ant-Man. This is up against, what I'm saying, Avatar, different things that, what I'm saying, that are in there that he was able to pull this off. And then you watch the movie and understand the direction he's going, and it's actually compelling storytelling that leaves you wondering what's happening with these other characters. In the Rocky movies, I don't think you wondering what's going on with Adrian to give her own spinoff. You know what I'm saying? I got enough of his son. I don't want to know what that little privileged a-hole is doing for the rest of his life. Like there's nobody other than maybe, what I'm saying, the great Apollo Creed itself that you really want to go back, what I'm saying, to follow. Nobody don't want to follow Mr. T's character. You know what I'm saying? We don't want to see if Hulk Hogan got into boxing. There's no
what
compelling.
is Hulk Hogan up to?
There's no compelling characters to spin off of other than Drago, and the only reason we want to see Drago is because of what happened in the Creed 2 movie, because we want to see what happened there. So I feel like he justified himself in being able to do something like that. It's not like the Sonyverse. We got Morbius.
Yeah, I think it has a lot to do, like you mentioned, the quality of these franchises, though, right? I mean, just because we accept the idea of one franchise being expanded doesn't mean we got to accept all of them being expanded. I mean, some franchises just have better quality writing and better quality stories and characters that have just more stories that we find intriguing to tell. So, it's not necessarily picking one over the other. It's just, I think we just come from it from a standpoint of what's the trajectory of this franchise? Is it climbing or is it declining? And Creed for me is one of those that is rising right now. So that's how we have those differences.
And then lastly, also like just the world of Creed, you know, it's the real world, which means that you have a lot more potential for the different stories that you can tell within that, you know, world. I mean, mostly the real world. It's the it's the real world where boxing is a lot more popular than it actually is in reality. But besides that, it's basically the real world. You know what I mean?
It's a world where the NBA and NFL does not exist.
Yeah.
But
everybody's favorite pastime, boxing.
Yeah, it's the same thing. It's the Walking Dead thing. You know what I'm saying? It's the Game of Thrones thing. It's the Lord of the Rings. They don't get spinoffs. The stories, you know what I'm saying, aren't compelling. Look, I mean, come on now. It's not Transformers. They're not just doing it for money.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I really believe that they care about, you know what I'm saying, this franchise that they're doing. And I'm looking forward to seeing what Michael B. Jordan does with it. And I'm looking forward to him and Jonathan Majors actually working together, you know what I'm saying, on more projects going forward, because these two, the world is their oyster right now.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you, Carter, for the question. And hopefully we answered it to the best
Appreciate you, Carter. I like that. Yeah, that's what I like to see in the comments.
So yeah, just hopefully that's cleared up some things. All right, guys, with that out of the way, we are going to move on to the TV side of things a little bit. I probably should have kept up with the, you know what? I'm gonna make a course correction here. We're gonna stick in the world of movies since we're already dabbling in movies. Coming off of her heels of a very well-received Netflix series by the name of Wednesday. She's also just now coming off of Scream, the success of Scream 5, as well as the most recent Scream 6 film that I believe is currently in theaters. Am I right, fellas? Did that drop this week?
Yes.
So check out Jenna Ortega in Scream 6, as Jenna Ortega is in fact back in the news. She teamed up with Tim Burton for Wednesday. She seemingly had a great time working alongside him. In fact, she is working on the next Wednesday season as well, hoping that she mentions that she's hoping that there's more horror and less relationship and love triangles in Wednesday season 2, certainly going forward. But Jenna Ortega is back in the news because, believe it or not, guys, there are words and rumors that she may in fact be teaming up with Tim Burton once again. And if you guys were big fans of what they were able to do when it comes to Wednesday, they may be up in the ante here, guys, by giving us a Beetlejuice 2. The concept of Beetlejuice 2, I feel like, has been out there in Hollywood for years now, kind of circling this concept of, is it going to happen? When is it going to happen? Is it not going to happen? But it seems like it's still very much on the table. This comes to us from Hollywood Reporter saying Jenna Ortega is circling Beetlejuice 2. Says the role would reunite Wednesday star with the world of Tim Burton. And Jenna Ortega is on a tear right now, guys. If you ask me, I think like her and Jonathan Majors right now are like probably some of the hottest actors that we have right now currently going. Wednesday star Jenna Ortega is looking to stay in the Tim Burton family. The actor is circling a role in Beetlejuice 2. Multiple sources wind up telling this to Hollywood Reporter. Clearly Warner Brothers doesn't like to comment on this type of stuff. Representative Ortega did not respond to the request for comment also. It says production is it says Tim Burton, who helmed the 1988 film starring Michael Keaton, is expected to direct, with Michael Keaton returning as well, according to sources. Production is eyeing a late May or early June shoot in London, but the budget has not been set, resulting in a back and forth. If a deal is made, sources say Ortega would play the daughter of Lydia, the character played by Winona Ryder in the original film. It does say the sequel has gone through various iterations over the years, with multiple writers coming and going, and Burton himself publicly waffling over his own involvement. It says Ortega, who's recently starred in Wednesday, also featured direction by Burton, has said that she used to have consistent dreams about Beetlejuice when she was certainly younger. Talking about working with Burton, she says, it's been quite an insane experience. I've been lucky enough to get the opportunities to work with an iconic director who just so happens to be one of the sweetest directors I've worked with, and also the most detailed oriented as well. Yeah, I definitely have heard some Jenna Ortega stories of her time on Wednesday, some of the difficulties, but also at the same time, some of the joys of working with Tim Burton. And so I'm really looking forward to not only seeing her back for Wednesday season 2, but I'm kind of hoping that this rings true, guys. But Stuart, let me go to you first. Jenna Ortega circling Beetlejuice 2. Do you want to see her work with Tim Burton once again? And what do you think about this potential casting?
Yeah, I think the character she's playing, I think that would actually fit really well with her acting style if she's playing the daughter of the main character from the original Beetlejuice. And yeah, the overall like idea of a Beetlejuice sequel being around for so long, it's kind of funny how this movie back in the 80s was originally pitched to be Beetlejuice going on vacation because Tim Burton really didn't want to make this movie, so he literally gave Warner Brothers the worst possible pitch he could think of in order to make sure Warner Brothers didn't go through with making this movie. So it's kind of funny to see it finally like actually being in production now. And yeah, I think Jenna Ortega has really kind of impressed me with a lot of like different things that she's been in when it comes to her role as Wednesday in the Wednesday Addams series, and of course her role as crap, I forgot her character's name in Scream 5 and 6, but I think she's been killing it in the Scream franchise so far. So
Pun intended.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it for sure.
Kurt Marino does ask the question in here: do you think we should get a Beetlejuice sequel, or should it be left alone? When I think of this question, Kurt, I mean, look, do I need a Beetlejuice sequel? No, I probably don't. While I enjoyed the first one, I'm cool with it just ending the way that it did. It's definitely not a character I don't need to necessarily go back and check out. Maybe as a kid too, I remember watching the Beetlejuice anime, cartoon series. So maybe I've had my fill of Beetlejuice over the years since I was a kid. So I don't necessarily think that we need one, but you tell me Michael Keaton is coming back. You tell me Tim Burton is directing again. You tell me Jenna Ortega is possibly coming on board. I wouldn't mind seeing Jenna Ortega and Michael Keaton sharing a screen together. I do think that they would be have some great chemistry on screen. So again, is it something that I absolutely am asking for and need? No, but it is compelling enough for me that if the trailers look enticing, if they can get me excited for it, I'll definitely go ahead and check it out. If there is any worry that I have, though, is probably just the idea of the article talking about just how much back and forth has happened, how much the script has been rewritten over the years. So it does make me a little bit hesitant as to where the script is as of right now. If Michael Keaton is still attached to it, clearly he probably approves of it and certainly likes the script for what it is. Not to say that Michael Keaton hasn't made any bad movies in his life. Jack Frost, anybody, right? So like at the end of the day, I am a little bit hesitant because it has taken this particular film so long to actually get in front of the cameras. Again, it's still not in front of the cameras yet, so we could still be waiting a little while for this. So I am still a little concerned about the script, but again, if the trailers are pretty interesting, I'm already sold on Jenna Ortega and Michael Keaton being a part of it. So yeah, I would definitely go ahead and check this out if it's compelling enough when I see the trailers. But I like the combo. I do think that they do make beautiful music together. I like the style of Wednesday, although I would agree with Jenna Ortega. I would like it to be a little bit more horror centric. I think she said when she initially looked at the script for Wednesday, it was a little bit more kid friendly, which that's not really what I was signing up for the Wednesday Addams series for. But if Tim Burton can really make Beetlejuice what the original one was, but pushing the envelope a little bit more, I might be open to it. But Indy, you hear this news. Are you on board with Jenna Ortega possibly playing the daughter of Lydia, played by Winona Ryder in the first one? And is this a franchise that you want to go back and visit, or you don't really care for?
I feel like we already had a sequel to Beetlejuice. It was an animated series that to me was like a direct sequel to the movie. So
To the movie, yeah.
This to me is a continuation of that. Is this something we need? Do we need a Drop Dead Fred sequel? No, but I welcome it. You know what I'm
Yo, I
saying?
haven't heard that name in so long.
Yeah, I welcome it. Again, this all goes to if the writing is going to be good, if the movie itself is going to be good. This is what it has to do. Do I trust Tim Burton? Sometimes. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes it gets it right. I'd rather have a Nightmare Before Christmas sequel, but I'll take what I can get. If Michael Keaton's going to be fully committed, you know what I'm saying? I already know Jenna Ortega is going to be fully committed, and there's a story there to be told. Then yeah, I'm 100% for it. If not, I'll be the main person on here to blast them for doing this movie.
Yeah, absolutely. You always come through with your truth bombs for sure. We'll see Punk over there. But yeah, guys, let us know your thoughts. We'll see if this movie ever gets made. Again, they've been circling the wagons for quite some time. Maybe they just found their perfect Lydia, and this is now that Jenna Ortega has emerged. But let us know your thoughts. Do you guys care to see Beetlejuice 2? Does the idea of Jenna Ortega being attached excite you to maybe being open to the idea? Definitely go ahead and let us know your thoughts in the live chat or comment section box below. And yeah, give us your thoughts on Wednesday if you thought Jenna Ortega did a pretty good job there as well. Definitely go ahead and let us know your thoughts. And last but not least, guys, we got one last topic we're going to go ahead and dive into in the world of television for you guys. We're leaving this one for last, but I'm a big Zorro fan. Well, I can't say I'm a big Zorro fan. I have enjoyed the last two Zorro movies that we've gotten with Antonio Banderas over the past couple of years. Me and my girlfriend actually just rewatched the first Zorro, and just a reminder to me just how much I enjoyed just that character and just the adventure itself. And so it seems as though Disney is going back to the well to go ahead and bring a Zorro television series to a more modern time. I think, if anything, while I am interested to see who they have cast for Zorro, maybe that's something that they talk about in this particular article. I think what fascinates me even more is the showrunner that they have attached to the Zorro project that might give us an idea of the tone and maybe the scope of what this Zorro series could potentially be. So let's go ahead and dive into our last article for the day, fellas. This comes to us from Deadline.com, letting us know that the Game of Thrones writer Brian Cogman is set to showrun and executive produce a reimagined Zorro series in works currently at Disney Plus. So they're bringing in a heavy hitter here in Brian Cogman from Game of Thrones. He is attached as writer and showrunner as well. He's like, you don't have to read the article anymore, brother. He's like, just tell me when it drops. It says Deadline exclusively revealed the series was in development in late 2021. The Disney series follows privileged Caballero Diego de la Vega, who returns to his hometown of El Pueblo de Los Angeles following a family tragedy. There he discovers a culture of corruption and injustice that will lead him to take on the mantle of the mass vigilante Zorro, America's first superhero. It says the studio describes Zorro as a bold reimagining of the classic, of the classic series for a modern audience, an epic adventure rooted in California's rich and diverse history, bursting with humor, sinister intrigue, romantic entanglements, and swashbuckling thrills. It says Cogman spent 10 years and 8 seasons on HBO's hit fantasy series Game of Thrones, finishing it up as a co-executive producer and penning 11 episodes. For his work on Game of Thrones, he received 4 Emmy Awards, a Hugo Award, a Producers Guild of America Award, and 7 Writers Guild Award nominations. He was a consulting producer on the first season of The Rings of Power and has written the screenplay for Disney's upcoming Sword in the Stone. So yeah, Brian Cogman definitely has the accolades to show possibly why this Zorro series is certainly worth even checking out. And if you ask me, man, I'm kind of on board already immediately. I'm kind of taking Indy's route here. Sign me up. Let me know when the release date is, man. You bring a Game of Thrones writer on here to bring Zorro into a more modern storytelling. I think it's fascinating. I'm a big fan of swashbucklings. Give me Zorro and give me pirates sort of any day of the week. A man with a sword, I'm there, man. And an awesome looking cape, I'm there. I do think that it'll be interesting to see who was cast for Zorro. I don't know if that'll make or break the series for me or not, but I definitely am looking forward to this. And I like the balance. If this is true, if it's got its humor, if it's got its romance entanglements, if it's got its action, its corruption and political intrigue to a certain extent, the idea of a modern day society in California of this character trying to be like a vigilante and be a hero to his people. I kind of dig the concept of that. So I would like to see that more modernized here. And if there is anybody certainly worth trusting in putting this together, a Game of Thrones writer, not a bad choice. Not a bad choice. But Indy, let me go ahead and throw this to you because I hear the excitement in your voice for this potentially. Is this something that you would be open to checking out yourself?
Definitely. Just for the fact that when you get somebody who has a pedigree such as his, when you hear the words Game of Thrones, Lord of Rings, you hear this is going to be good. You know what I'm saying? Regardless of what goes on. I wasn't even a fan of the Rings of Power, but I'm not gonna knock that it wasn't well told. My thing was it was too slow, but I'm also somebody who likes The Witcher. Makes no sense at all. I think I've been conditioned to be such a Game of Thrones fan that anything Lord of the Rings is not existing to me. It's kind of like Star Wars or Star Trek is one or the other. But you got a dude who's worked on both, who understands how to tell a story, how to pace a story, who's won awards for his work. So it definitely makes it interesting, especially when you're dealing with a hero who has no powers. That's one of the things. In Game of Thrones is about anybody with superpowers. Lord of the Rings, you know what I'm saying? Like special abilities, but not necessarily, you know what I'm saying, superheroes. He's worked in that type of aspect. It's somebody that Disney must trust, because think about how sacred Sword of the Stone is. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. For Disney, and he's the one that's working on it. So I trust him with this. Was never I'm not like you. I didn't like the Zorro live action movies. I was one of those who was passionate about the television series. It just had a different feel to me because I grew up with it. So I'm interested in what he's actually going to, do with this. And for some reason in my head, I'm mixing like Battle of the Bastards with the Mandalorian, and I'm seeing like Zorro just swing in, like coming from first light from the west, like Gandalf or something. You know what I'm saying? To be able to take everything down.
Yeah, I kind of dig your comparison there. I kind of dig it, man. If anything, I think you're right. I think like Brian Cogman, just as a writer, also just seeing what Disney has put on his plate and has him sort of tackling. He clearly is a man that deals with like his swords and sorcerers and magic relatively well. That sort of fantastical element a little bit. So the idea of him coming to Zorro for me just feels kind of right up their alley, especially considering the fact that the stuff that he's writing aren't necessarily people with superpowers, just really interesting, intriguing characters with just themselves and a sword. And what can you do with that in like some sort of mask, right? And what kind of impact can you certainly have? So I am really interested to kind of see what he does here. But what do you think, Stuart? Is this something you'll be open to based off of who the showrunner is? And what is your relationship with Zorro? Is that something that you franchise you're even interested in?
Yeah, I think who they got working as the showrunner is going to be very interesting. Yeah, a lot of experience under his belt. Love Game of Thrones, of course. So, I think in terms of having like kind of a solid writing, it's definitely there. With Zorro, I watched the two movies with Antonio Banderas. I didn't really like the second one, but I used to love the first one as a kid, although at this point it has been way too long since I've seen it. So I definitely need to rewatch it at some point. That's what I always love about Disney announcing like new projects based on like old properties. It gives me kind of an excuse to go and rewatch those old properties again while I get ready for this new one. But yeah, overall, like I don't have too much to say about it because I wasn't like a huge Zorro fan. I never watched either of the two television shows that came from it. But I like the movie enough to be intrigued for this upcoming series.
Yeah, I think for me, the movie wise, I just was always impressed with the charm of Antonio Banderas. I think it really made the character pop a little bit for me, and his chemistry with Catherine Zeta-Jones definitely worked, and I always love that mentorship role that Anthony Hopkins was kind of able to bring in regards to helping really form this Zorro character, right? By picking, I think Antonio Banderas' character was like poor, just kind of somebody living off the side of the street or something like that, but wanted to kind of do more. And I think Anthony Hopkins, his character as a mentor, I think he like found him and saw his potential and kind of helped mold him and turn him into this suave sort of character, when he's not necessarily under the mask sort of thing. So I always enjoyed the dynamic that I just thought they had a really strong cast, and I always appreciated Antonio Banderas' charm. So we'll see what Brian Cogman can certainly do as a showrunner in bringing Zorro to life for a more modern time period. But I do think that there is a world that we live in where this could possibly be successful. So we'll see once we get more details in here, just the exact time period that we're going to be getting this in. I am going to be interested to see how it turns out. But let us know your guys' thoughts in regards to it. What are your thoughts on just the Zorro franchise? Do you think it needs a modernized reboot? Even if you don't, do you think the idea of a Brian Cogman attached certainly gives you hope and confidence in this series? Definitely go ahead and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. And I think with that, will wrap up all of our live viewer questions, all of our main topics for today, guys. So thank you everybody for certainly coming through. And thank you to everybody with the super chats today. I think we got ourselves like $15 worth of super chats. So shout out to Frankie and shout out to the Tilla for certainly coming through, helping support the channel in that way. So yeah, guys, if you ever want to support the channel, hit that super chat button, hit that super image button. What you got, Indy?
Do me a favor. For the 2 people that send super chats, get their mailing information from me. I'm gonna send them merch for being the first ones to send us super chats.
Hey, okay, I'll get that. Yeah, I'll get their information. Hey, Frankie, I don't know if Frankie's still in here, but if Frankie, if you are in here, email us. There is an email in the description box below. Datilla, I'll contact you later. But yeah, Frankie, send us your mailing address to the email down below. All right, guys. And with that out of the way, Stuart, I think you know what time it is.
Yes, I believe it is time for live viewer questions.
And as we get into our live viewer questions, if you guys would like to ever submit a live viewer question, you can easily do so anytime, usually on Wednesdays or Thursdays or any day after that. We'll usually go ahead and put up a post for live viewer questions. Just simply go over to our YouTube page, as you guys see here, click on that community tab. And again, usually Wednesday or any day after Wednesday, we have a live viewer questions post. Feel free to submit your question over, and depending on the time that we have, we'll certainly try and get through as many as we can. And fellas, this is something I want to kind of talk with you guys about too. Maybe changing how we do our live viewer questions going forward now that we do have super chats available in here. Allowing people to the opportunity to support our channel. Maybe this is something that we talk about later, but live viewer questions, we may certainly still stick with live viewer questions, but we may be doing it a little bit differently kind of going forward, but we'll definitely keep you guys posted. In the meantime, though, let's go ahead and start tackling some of these questions. Let's see here. Jessica Friedman, starting us off. Do you think the CW should have moved Batwoman, Legends, and Stargirl to HBO Max when they had the chance? And when do you think we'll see Jonathan Entwistle's Power Rangers reboot? Indy, what do you think? Do you think Batwoman and Legends and Stargirl should have been moved to HBO Max? Do you think there's still time for that to happen?
Stargirl would have survived. Legends and Batwoman would have died. And the only reason I say the Stargirl would have survived is because the Stargirl started on HBO Max. There was a following there for it. I think moving the other shows to HBO Max, I don't know if an episodic HBO Max drop weekly would have helped them any with their ratings. I feel like they were doing well on the CW. I think the constant shifting of days is what kind of messed them up, because think about it. They had CW had no more lead in. Remember what they used to do? Whatever came before Supernatural was a win. So whatever show they wanted to be popular, they put on before Supernatural. When they lost some of those shows, like the Vampire Diaries, original Supernatural and stuff like that, is when I feel like they lost a lot of their fan base. With Arrow leaving, because they used to do the same thing. They used to put whatever show they wanted to be seen, they used to put on before Arrow. I think when they lost that anchor of those shows is what happened, and I don't think those shows would have been able to transition over to HBO Max because they were having too hard of a problem keeping viewership on the CW, because even I lost track of when Batwoman came on.
What about you, Stuart? Do you think any of those movies could have survived on HBO Max?
Yeah, I think Stargirl could have survived perfectly fine. I think for Legends and Batwoman, they may have had to adjust it like a little bit. I think like for Batwoman, maybe not that it wasn't already dark, but maybe make it a little bit darker, make it like kind of more tonally like the Netflix Marvel shows. And then for Legends of Tomorrow, honestly, I feel like that show could have done so much better if it was an animated series.
I'm sorry, I was reading a private chat. Say that last part again. What could have been done as an animated series?
Oh, Legends of Tomorrow. I think that would have been kind of, if they ever moved that to HBO Max, it'd be kind of cool if they moved it there as an animated series.
That would be pretty cool. I wouldn't have minded that. Animated, that would have been pretty interesting to kind of see how they pulled that off. As far as the last question, when will we see Jonathan Entwistle's Power Ranger reboot? I'm expecting like 2025, Stuart, but maybe I'm tripping.
Yeah, I'm expecting that too, because it sounds like they have like ideas down, but they haven't like quite started. Like they're still in pre-production at this moment, so I would expect a couple years.
Marcelino Vasquez says about 2 years ago we had the tragic passing of Kentaro Miura, the creator of the Berserk manga. How do you think the manga will continue and eventually end without the original creator on board? Are any of you familiar with the Berserk manga?
Yeah, very much so. I don't think it'd be a problem. The thing about mangakas and when they're doing stuff like that is that they have people that are very close to them, that are like their understudies or students, per se, that know their vision, have come into his style of storytelling and stuff like that to be able to finish, the story for him. It's not like publication. It's not like, let's say, Game of Thrones, when old boy George R. Martin hasn't finished the story, and then somebody's just, well, we're just willy-nilly and do it how we want to do it, like type deal. No, I think it's more of a respect thing when it comes to mangas, and they will, try to keep the story as close to the exact way that he tells his story, and you won't feel like as much of a difference. The only thing you might get different is artwork, which happens all the time in mangas and anime. But as long as the story's good and fits like how it's going, it shouldn't be an issue.
Let's see. You got anything about that, Stuart, or no?
Not really. My friend's a huge Berserk fan, and somehow I hadn't heard about his passing, so I'm sure he's going to be really sad to hear about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure, man. I'm glad somebody on this panel knew about it though, because I had no idea what the Berserk manga was. So, see, this is why we have you here, Indy. You know what I'm saying? Let's see here. Blossom. Do you really think Ollie's gonna turn evil, let alone break up with Amelia? Jizo, Susie. I'll need a ton of tissues if that's the case. Also, did you hear about Yodana 3? I heard that they don't have that Kikihara bitch in there. Zox's sister Flint is gonna be in it, I hear. Oh, that'd be pretty cool. I would love to see Zox's sister Flint in Yodana 3. I've heard a little bit about Yodana 3. I saw a picture of her and what is it, the Yellow Ranger from Kara Major, I believe it was. So they're definitely teasing a romantic relationship, which look, it's about time. He's had the biggest crush on Yodana for the longest time since the series itself. We've gotten 2 Yodana specials without them actually linking up in that regards, but I'm hoping at least that it happens in Yodana 3. I did see her brand new costume, which I think is fire. I was a big fan of the first 2 Yodana specials. I thought the action was just unbelievable. So I'm hoping it's got the same tone as the first ones, but I'm interested in it changing up just a little bit. But bring it on, man. I've been looking for a 3rd installment there. For you, Stuart, do you think Ollie is going to turn evil, let alone break up with Amelia?
Oh, I don't even think he's gonna break up with her. I think he's just gonna abandon the entire team because
Team.
I'm pretty sure he's just gonna be mind controlled. I don't think it's gonna be Ollie himself like suddenly turning evil because that would be like super out of character and out of left field for him. I think he's just gonna get mind controlled. He's just gonna abandon the team and try to kill them, like in the middle of a mission or something like that. Um, Sorry, question though with the second one with the Yodana series. Does that take place after or during Kira Major?
I believe it takes place after. Because yeah, Tommy Tomo and Juru, they in the first one, they're all hanging out, and I believe him and his school friend, the girl from his class, I believe they're dating at that point. So it definitely takes place after Kira Major.
Okay.
Dino Knights Fight for Your Rights. What do you think of the information from the Illuminati regarding the plot of the MPR special Once and Always regarding Robo Rita kidnapping rangers from all over the planet and turning them into little figures? While it's not confirmed by Hasbro as of yet, it does already make me ask the question: are the Dino Fury team affected by the crisis? Or are they just somehow ignored, considering that they are in the same universe as all the other Ranger teams, except for RPM and Dino Charge? This does make me scratch my head, wondering if maybe at some point during the 6-month time period after the finale of Dino Fury, maybe the Rangers minus Zeta were involved in Once and Always, perhaps during the post-production of the MMPR special and right before the filming of Cosmic Fury. Simon Bennett and the crew filmed new scenes of the Dino Fury team in their Ranger suits interacting with the MMPR team during the crisis. We only hear the team through their helmets. This would allow both anniversary projects to be connected even right before Billy does actually appear in Cosmic Fury. So yes, I did hear the plot. Or at least, yeah, the plot regarding Robo Rita kidnapping Rangers. I think we even saw some of the set photos from behind the scenes. You can see like the figures in the background also to go ahead and emphasize that they have in fact been captured. As far as like the time period, and if the Dino Fury characters will be involved, there's a part of me, Stuart, and Indy, that I'm thinking that they're not going to be involved. I wonder. I have a feeling that the Robo Rita plot is other Ranger teams that they've been sort of capturing that our MMPR team has to save. But that's not to say that there aren't elements of Once and Always that will connect with Cosmic Fury. So I do think that they will connect in some way. I just don't know if it's necessarily one of the Dino Fury teammates getting captured in any way. But what do you guys think in that regards?
I think because the Dino Fury Rangers are going to be in space doing their own mission, I think that's kind of what leads them out of the story. I'm sure they'll be referenced, but I don't think they'll be directly connected in the anniversary.
And if anything, we did get not only the Illuminati teasing us about the plot of what Robo Rita is up to, but we also got ourselves official synopsis this week from Dino for was it the MMPR special. I'm trying to see if I actually saved it on my computer here. Did I? Okay, yeah. So the actual synopsis for it, let me move this banner for just a second. After tragedy strikes, an unlikely young hero takes her rightful place among the Power Rangers to get revenge on the team's oldest arch nemesis. Do you think the tragedy, and this is something I wanted to talk a little bit more about in my official synopsis, but after sitting on this a couple days, along with what the Illuminati is talking about, do you think that the tragedy here is the death of Trini? Or do you think the tragedy here is that global crisis that they're referring to, that of Robo Rita capturing these people? Or do you think it's two separate things?
I think it's the death of Trini personally.
Do you have any thoughts, Indy?
Man, I'm trying to stay so far away from spoilers. Like I haven't paid attention to anything y'all saying. I'll
I'm
just
sorry,
watch
man.
it.
I'm sorry.
Nah, y'all
I'm sorry.
good. I zoned out. I started playing Street Fighter Duel on my phone. Just zoned out. Nah, I'm to the point right now, especially with the tragedy that we had in the Mighty Morphin, you know what I'm saying, family as of late, where I don't want to try to figure out what's going on or like wrap my head around stuff. I literally want to just sit down and enjoy this like when I was a kid, you know, because
Yeah.
I'd be totally honest. I'm still reeling a little bit from the JDF thing. I took my White Ranger Legacy figure off the wall the other day because you know what I'm saying, I just kept getting choked up, you know what I'm saying, for that. It's just, man, and I really hope it's not especially after what we had happened, I hope it's not a death that triggers, you know what I'm saying, what's going on. I hope it's something different, because I honestly don't want them to play with, you know what I'm saying, Trini's death like that and use it as a catalyst. I hope they're a little bit more respectful to that.
There is something you know, that in my head, I think of myself, I think of the sense of like the film starting off with like getting that phone call in the middle of the night that everybody hates, you know, and coming to find out that there's a passing. Because it almost seems like just the way that the synopsis is written, it's almost like it's pretty current, you know, like after tragedy strikes, an unlikely young hero takes her rightful place. It almost feels like how recent is this, or is it the case of, you know, Min having set, you know, having to sit on this for quite some time, that her mother has passed, and now is just now taking her rightful place among the Power Rangers. Who know that the tragedy could also be, like we mentioned, right, the global crisis that is whatever Robo Rita is certainly dealing with. But then it says teaming up with the Power Rangers to get revenge on the team's oldest arch nemesis. There almost feels like a personal story in there somewhere, in the sense of wanting to get revenge for either the death of somebody, or it could, like I said, it could be revenge in the sense of rescuing these Rangers from Robo Rita. The way that the synopsis plays out just makes me feel like there's a lot of personal stuff kind of going on in this MMPR special. And I don't know if I'm reading into it incorrectly or what, though, but I do think it's going to be pretty emotional and maybe sensitive for some people. And I am kind of curious how people would take that if that's the case, though.
I really do hope it's a revenge story, because it's something really dark that we've never seen in Power Rangers, and I think it would be really cool if you had the old Power Rangers, the original Power Rangers, who are always the characters we're supposed to look up to, if they're the ones who have to like mentor the new character and teach her that vengeance isn't the route that she should be going with this.
That might be pretty intriguing. And I know some people have pushback in the sense of like you said, Indy, right? The idea that some people are hoping that it's not revolving around a death. You know, I don't mind the idea if it's revolving around a death so much as I don't necessarily need to see it, though. You know,
Mhm.
like if it's something that happens on screen and then now our Rangers have to deal with the emotional trauma that happens from it, I'm pretty open minded to that. I mean, I think they did that pretty good with Chadwick Boseman and Black Panther Wakanda Forever, right? Like we didn't see it. We knew that something was going on, but we didn't necessarily see it. And it was still kind of emotional in a way for them to pay tribute and honor the man that was Chadwick Boseman. So I do think as long as they have a good balance here, I think they can do the Trini death while still paying respects. And I think it's one of those things that you can still do that. And what gives me confidence in that is Walter Jones and David Yost being attached to this project in the first place. I just can't find it within me to think that if Hasbro and the script was really disrespectful, or they felt it was going to trigger some people, that they would attach their names to this project. You know what I mean? Because look, at the end of the day, death is a real thing. You know, it's something that we have to deal with in our own lives. And maybe some people will say, you know, but Power Rangers is supposed to be make believe and pretend and fantastical. But I do think that sometimes it is something that has to be dealt with, right? We had a death in Power Rangers Lost Galaxy, right? To having a Ranger to sort of die. So it's not under the realm of possibility of actually happening. I just think it's a real life situation, and I hope that they handle it in the in just in the right way, in an appropriate way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree.
So we'll see how that turns out. Morgan Hutchinson. We know that the DCU is rebooted by James Gunn and the other gentleman, Peter Safran. Do you see the Justice League Snyder Cut film basically being the peak of the DCEU, where it was a long crossover event, and now the Flash movie is the latest from the now outgoing DCU by dabbling into the multiverse and no longer having connection to the old DCEU like it was supposed to originally? Um, for me, I kind of do. When I look at Justice League Snyder Cut, it does feel like the peak of the DCEU to me. Like that's it. Like when I look at Snyder and what he's done, I think of that DCEU as pretty much just a trilogy. Man of Steel, Batman versus Superman, Justice League. Those three films, that's it. Anything else that kind of came in, while I appreciated some of those films, I enjoyed Shazam. Aquaman, I thought was great. The first Wonder Woman movie, I thought was pretty great. I enjoyed those movies, but it does feel like bigger pieces to a bigger crossover event that was the Snyderverse. So yeah, I'm hoping that when we get the Flashpoint movie or the Flash movie in here, it'll kind of branch us out to a new, I don't want to say trilogy, but a new peak, if you will, for the DCU. But yeah, I kind of see the Snyder Cut as like the peak of what the DCEU certainly was. But maybe that's just me. What about you guys?
Yeah,
Any thoughts, Indy or Stuart? Whoever.
I feel like the Batman was the peak for me. If you call that
Was
a
that?
part of,
But yeah, do you call that the DCEU though? The Batman?
I do, just for the simple fact, like it was around that Snyder Cut buzz. You know what I'm saying, and everything like that, and comparisons, and is this in it? Is it not? I don't know, man. Like so much of that was just trash to me. Like the second Wonder Woman film, I'm not hearing good things about the second Aquaman film. The best movie to me out that whole run was the first Shazam. So I don't know what we were supposed to get or what we're looking for. Yeah, the Snyder Cut was a better cut of, to me, a bad movie. That none of the Justice League stuff, none of the Batman versus Superman, none of that to me even held a candle to like Man of Steel, Shazam, like, you know what I'm saying, like those movies. They were in such a rush to catch Marvel that they destroyed something beautiful that they were making. Has nothing to do with Zack Snyder. I think it has everything to do with what Warner Brothers was doing and wouldn't let him, you know what I'm saying, achieve the dream that he had. Even an amazing Swamp Thing television series got caught up in the whirlwind, you know what I'm saying, all that what was going on. So no, I honestly feel like we haven't seen the peak of DC. I really feel like going off this Batman film, Shazam 2 looks like it's really going to be good. Like I said, I haven't heard good things about Aquaman, so I feel like if they keep going on that type of road, I feel like they'll be perfectly fine. They just need to take their time, not worry about the competition, and just worry about what they're doing and the quality of content they're putting out.
Yeah, absolutely. I do think there's a big peak coming here for DC eventually. What about you, Stuart? How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I'd say, man, it depends on like what we mean by peak, because for me, the peak in terms of the best like DC movie, it's like somewhere, the best of the DCEU movies. It's like for me between like, the Suicide Squad and Shazam and Wonder Woman. But in terms of like actually crossing characters over, actually coming together, then, obviously the only two movies you have to compare with each other are the Justice League and Justice League. And I think between the two of them, definitely Justice League was the peak out of that. But yeah, I do look forward to seeing now where this new direction comes from. And I hope that going forward, we can get more of these crossover events, and it doesn't, and I hope that DC doesn't constantly continue to second guess themselves like they've been doing ever since, the like you refer to it as the Zack Snyder trilogy. I feel like that was like the biggest problem, was how they were constantly second guess, or questioning themselves, and like constantly going back on plans and things like that.
Yeah, I think David Zaslav trusts James Gunn as of right now, at least. We'll see how the first few films certainly does, and we'll see if he starts freaking out like Warner Brothers certainly did in the past.
Yeah, Superman Legacy ends up being like worse than Dawn of Justice, and suddenly it's like, okay, now we're in trouble.
Don't say such things, man. It is being rumored that James Gunn might direct that film, so we'll see if we actually get an official announcement soon. Kurt Marino, one question for Stuart. What were some of your favorite moments from the 4-part finale of Dino Fury, Stuart?
Ooh. Okay, I love that final battle in the 4-part finale. That final battle was freaking cool. Something that we never really seen before in Power Rangers. Did it look the sharpest? Not necessarily, but I give them a lot of credit for ambition and for trying something new. I also did kind of like how the invasion really did almost like help tie in SPD to the timeline, because there's that big question of how are aliens so like, commonly integrated into the Earth in the year 2025. I'm sure there's going to be a bit of a retcon in Once and Always when it comes to that. Like they may say, oh no, SPD actually took place in 2035 or 2045 or something. I don't know. But regardless, I do like how the seeds were kind of planted there. Even if it was done in a bit of a really fast paced, like kind of cheesy way of just like, it takes like a couple humans doing a good thing for like the entire race of aliens to be like, maybe humans don't need to be conquered. It's like, wait, really? That's all it took? Okay. As cheesy as it was, I did overall really enjoy that aspect of it.
And let me, this is a second part here too. It says one question for Adam, but I do want to send this over to Indy. Indy, do you feel Michael Bay ruined 2 franchises? The first 3 Transformers films and then the 2 TMNT films, both starring Megan Fox. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think he ruined those franchises?
No, I think Megan Fox did. The first Transformer movie wasn't bad. It was a good reimagining. I think when it comes to something like that, again, it comes down to the writing and how you tell a story. You know what I'm saying? Like we go here a lot, but I'm gonna give it to Vin Diesel. As outrageous, you know what I'm saying, as his movies are, they revolve around one core storyline, family. You know what I'm saying? Like the stories themselves make sense. How they get from point A to point B in a car that can fly makes no sense at all. But their reasoning behind what they do and why they're doing it makes sense. The Transformer movies, I feel, had no idea what the hell they wanted Optimus Prime to be. They didn't know if they wanted Bumblebee to be, you know what I'm saying, like the lieutenant, the person that's going to take over, or just a child. It just seemed weird. Starscream didn't feel like Starscream. Megatron didn't feel like Megatron. I have no idea if he even watched Transformers as a kid. So when it came to TMNT, I honestly feel like those movies weren't bad. I think the thing with Turtles is they've been through so many iterations of what the Turtles are, or who they're trying to be, trying to recapture what they had in the 80s, that we don't know what they're supposed to be anymore. I mean, one of the reasons we liked the movies back in the 90s was because they were simple and to the point. I mean, they were entertaining. They gave us comedy. They gave us people kicking people in the face. That's all we really needed. That's why Cobra Kai is so successful. It's entertaining, gives people kicking people in the face. The TMNT was trying to become a franchise to earn money. They wanted toys, they wanted everything. It just got caught up in the woohoo. If they would have just made the movie what it was supposed to be, it'd have been cool. I had no problem with the designs. I thought the first movie was incredible. To be totally honest with you, I thought parts of the second movie was incredible, other than Megan Fox. You know what I'm saying? Stephen Amell was wonderful in the film. You know, like it was a good story. Krang looked good. I almost said Kang. You could tell I'm still in Marvel. Krang looked good. It was a decent story. It was just badly done. There was no need for Megan Fox to be in there. You don't need a hot girl in every movie. I'm just saying. Look at Bel Air. Incredible TV show. Nobody on there's uber hot. Just saying.
This is truth.
So
Truth.
Really interesting comparison, Bel Air and Transformers. But yeah, I think like overall the movies were like the writing was kind of the biggest issue with them. I think that at times they definitely had some good action, some really cool directing moments. But yeah, I think the writing is what kind of killed all of them, and I think it's because they were focused more on selling toys and military propaganda than they were trying to tell a story.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious what the merchandise was like for TMNT 1 and 2. I am kind of curious if they were pretty successful their merchandise when it comes to toys or not. And I'm still a big proponent of not only the first Transformers film, but I'm a sucker for the third one, Revenge of the Fallen. Is
That
that
was
what it
a
was?
second, I think.
Or what was the Dark Side of the Moon? That's what it was.
Yeah.
The Dark Side of the Moon. That was my favorite. I don't want to say that was my favorite, but I enjoyed the Battle of Chicago. It was fantastic to see on the big screen. Who else we got? Before I get to you, Gabriel, you might be the last just because your question is super long. I do have an email from Michael from last week. He mentioned he was not able to get to his post wasn't posting in community last week. So he did email me. What is the most annoying character in any movie for you or hated? Do you have well, I will say Jessica Jones for me was annoying as fuck. I'm sorry. I know a lot of people really enjoyed that series. And I appreciated Kristen's performance. But I think one of the reasons why I couldn't get on board with it, there wasn't elements to her, to me at least, that was super likable. Maybe she was purposefully meant to be that way. But for me, I just found her more annoying than anything else when it comes to the Jessica Jones series. So that's my gripe with the first season.
I can't figure out how to mute you.
Yeah, definitely an unpopular opinion for sure. But yeah, for me, Jessica Jones. What about you guys? Any annoying or hated characters from a movie or series?
Come back to me last.
Do you want me to go down the list?
Yeah, give me like three to five. Give me like 3 to 5.
3 to 5. Number 1, Jar Jar Binks.
It's a great one.
A very, very hateable. Number 2, Hayden Christensen. Just in general.
Okay. Oh, okay.
No movie specifically.
No movie.
Yeah, no movie
just
specifically.
In general. Tobey Maguire in Spider-Man 3. Just in Spider-Man 3. No other reason. Just for the dance scene. And April O'Neil.
And any TM, just April O'Neil in general?
No. Anything Megan Fox has been in has been utterly annoying.
Okay.
Just
what was that vampire? Was it Vampire's Body? What was that?
Whatever it was, it didn't even be. And Jessica Alba and Honey.
I don't think I ever saw that one, but okay, maybe I'll put that on my list to check. No,
Don't.
Okay.
That's cultural appropriation at its best.
Oh, damn. Okay. What about you, Stuart? Who you got? Any annoying or hated characters?
Oh man, right now the only one, because like as I'm kind of like trying to think of them, it's like the only annoying characters I can think of are the ones that I can't be mad at because they're meant to be annoying. But I guess one that also technically fits under that category, but she pissed me off so much that I couldn't even care like if there was a reason behind it. I always hated the woman from Temple of Doom, the love interest in Indiana Jones Temple of Doom. She oh my god, give me a migraine at times.
Yeah, that I definitely agree with you. The screaming, the whining, the complaining, like woman, get out of here. Like, why are you on this adventure with me besides to drive me crazy?
Yeah.
So yeah, I totally agree with you there. He also asks, what do you think of many Asian descent filmmakers being recognized and earning awards as of late? And do you feel that the success of Crazy Rich Asians, Parasite, and Shang-Chi opened many more doors for Asian filmmakers and entertainments to be more mainstream compared to a decade ago? Could this still happen if those films were box office and commercial failures? If they were failures, no, I don't think so. I think just because of the fact that there's always been such a running trope, or just the idea that Asian Americans can't carry a film, that they can't be like Asian leads or anything like that. And I think the fact that we are seeing some incredible films over the past couple of years have really shown to prove that to be absolutely incorrect. But if those films were failures, I don't think that they would be getting as much recognition or at least as much limelight as they have been. But it is also going to show that there's just some incredibly talented people out there in Hollywood, some amazing Asian filmmakers, whether that be in front of the camera or behind the camera, that are finally getting their recognition, and they're doing some amazing work. And it wouldn't be surprised if we continue to see it become more and more at the award ceremonies. But you had your hand up, Indy. What were you going to say?
I apologize. You're gonna be mad at me about this, but I have to say this: Caitlin Stark, Tasha St. Patrick, Maggie Green, and Iris West. I'm good now.
I said 3 to 5. He had to get in his 10. He had to get other names in there. Absolutely, I love it.
Caitlin Stark was the mother in Game of Thrones, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, I agree.
Yeah. I agree. But let me ask you, Indy, what do you think of many Asian descendant filmmakers being recognized these days? And could this still happen if those filmmakers were box office and commercial failures? Oh, I guess
no, I'm good. I caught a cramp. I'll be right back.
Okay. All right. What about you, Stuart? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that every time there's like every time we see God, how do I word this? So every time we see like something that hasn't been done as often before and it becomes a success, that itself will always open the doors for more of something like that. And I think in terms of Asian representation, I think Crazy Rich Asians was a huge step for Asian representation in media, because I mean, obviously you have plenty of movies where there are going to be where there is going to be an Asian main character and things like that, but it's always going to be supported by a huge white cast and things like that. Oftentimes, how many times have you seen the white mentor when it comes to these type of movies? So I think when you have a movie that was successful like Crazy Rich Asians, which is like an all Asian cast, you show that, hey, you don't need a famous white person in this movie in order for this movie to be a success. People will go to watch it regardless, as long as it's a well-written movie. So I think that once you have a movie like Crazy Rich Asians, it opens the door for movies like Shang-Chi, and then Shang-Chi's success opens up the doors for movies like Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all connected for sure. And and I've heard a ton of stories of like Asian filmmakers and Asian actors having to like change their last names in order to sometimes get parts and roles, just because of the stigma, or just because of the fears and all that other stuff, all the tropes of them not being able to be successful. So hopefully that's something that will eventually come to an end. But they're definitely getting a lot more representation, and again, because they're putting great stories first, and they're telling great characters and things like that also. So it's definitely all connected.
Mm-hmm. One other issue in terms of that, like people having to change their last names, I think that actually right now is a lot because of like AIs, because AIs have been is where a lot of people are picking up resumes now from, and AIs work on a algorithm, and they're going to recognize the fact that, oh, you hired these people whose last name was Smith, but you didn't hire this person whose last name was Wong. So it's going to recognize in the algorithm, okay, if we see someone whose last name is Wong, probably just going to skip over them.
That's a good point. I didn't even consider that either. Let's see here. What else we got? Gabriel, you're up next. This might be the last question, but we'll see how this goes. It's a little long here. So I checked out Amazing Spider-Man for the first time in 2012. That's the Andrew Garfield film. And never realized how fun it was. I really enjoyed Andrew Garfield's version of Peter Parker. The movie starting with him as a kid and already being with his parents was really great, and was something that both Tobey and Tom Holland Spider-Man never did. It was such a nice change of formula since Peter as a young kid before being raised by Uncle Ben and Aunt May. The high school aspects felt more realistic, where Flash Thompson was, of course, the high school jock and douchebag, but was also much nicer to Peter. after learning that Uncle Ben was killed. The way Uncle Ben was murdered in this version felt more realistic because Peter's first encounter with a robber was at a gas station instead of at a wrestling event. I really like the homage to the comic books where Peter fell through the ceiling of a building and landed in a wrestling studio rather than the actual WrestleMania venue. I absolutely love that Peter and Gwen were actually classmates and spoke to each other rather than just Peter following her and trying to talk to her. Dr. Curtis Connor being the main antagonist in the film as Lizard was a nice change of pace. And Gwen Stacy's father finding out about Peter was Spider-Man was really interesting, and his death felt a little bit more realistic with him telling Peter to make a promise not to tell Gwen who he really was. As a whole, I really enjoyed this movie, and to me felt like this and the sequel were darker takes on Spider-Man that we would later get in No Way Home during the aftermath of Aunt May. Seeing Peter wanting revenge for Uncle Ben's death was very dark and interesting way for him to become Spider-Man. Having 3 Spider-Men already gave us 3 generations of web slingers and live action cinema. This movie really was underrated and underappreciated, but also understandable since this film came out 5 years after Spider-Man 3. My question was, has watching Spider-Man No Way Home make you appreciate Andrew Garfield as Peter a little bit more, or still the same since his Spidey films came out? And would you like him to return for a future Spider-Man movie? You want to tackle this one first, Stuart?
Yeah, sure. I'd say actually No Way Home itself didn't make me appreciate him a little bit more. It was more rewatching it before No Way Home came out that made me appreciate the movie a little bit more. I still have my issues with it, but I think that overall, yeah, you bring up some good points, and I do think it wasn't as bad as I remembered when I watched it the first time. I think just for me, it gave me too many Twilight vibes, especially with Andrew Garfield feeling like a little more of an emo kind of Peter Parker than I'm used to. But I think I got over that over time, and now I've come to appreciate the movie for what it is. I still wish the death of Gwen's dad was done a little bit differently, because I kind of liked it more in the comic books, where in the comic books he never knew or he never, as far as us as the readers knew, he never knew that Spider-Man was Peter Parker, which is why as he died and he said, take care of Gwen, it was a huge twist. It was the big, like, what? So he knew the whole time kind of moment. And I think the writers of the movie robbed themselves of having a moment like that. And not to mention, I thought it was so weird that Peter makes a joke about Gwen's dad dying at the very end of the movie, and she thought it was hot that he made that joke. And it was just like, what? I still think that last line, don't make promises you can't keep. Oh, but those are the best kind. I still think that was someone in the writer's room should have been like, no.
This is kind of inappropriate, don't you think?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty funny. God, I forgot all about that line. I'm so glad you brought that back to my memory, though.
Yeah.
Look, I will say, while I didn't mind the first Amazing Spider-Man. I actually appreciated it. I would agree that I do think it is underrated. But I do think seeing No Way Home made me appreciate it even that much more. I'm still not a fan of Andrew Garfield as Peter. He's just way too cool for me, man. But I always loved his Spidey. I thought he always had some of the best wisecracks out there. So I always loved this character. And there were definitely elements of the first Amazing Spider-Man that I was a fan of. The idea of going with the Lizard this time around felt unique and fresh. Focusing on Gwen Stacy with some great chemistry with Emma Stone, I thought really worked out incredibly well. And the dynamic of seeing that a story revolving around Peter's parents, I thought was unique and fresh also. Those are all traits that I appreciated about the film the first time around, but I definitely do think as appreciating Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man, I definitely came to appreciate his movies a little bit more after watching No Way Home. It could have been a nostalgic factor, just being able to opportunity to see them all together. But I think for me also just seeing the lessons that Andrew's Peter kind of learned, when he's having that moment with Tom Holland's Peter Parker on the top of the building after he just lost Aunt May. The parallels and the sympathy and empathy that Andrew's Peter was able to feel and express, to kind of learn a little bit more about the path that he went down after we saw him in Spider-Man 1 and 2, definitely made me want to revisit it. And upon revisiting it, certainly appreciated those moments certainly a lot more. And that's why I say to this day, I think No Way Home was such a proper send-off for Andrew and both Toby, that if we didn't get any more movies after this, I would be perfectly okay with that. And your end of your question asks, is it something that we want to see more of? Look, if they announced the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man 3, I don't think it's needed, but I would be excited for it, Stuart. Would you?
Uh, maybe. I don't know if I'd be excited for it, but I'd watch it. Personally, instead of Amazing Spider-Man 3, I just kind of want to see his Spider-Man face off against Tom Hardy's Venom. I feel like that Venom franchise would fit in really well in the Amazing Spider-Man movies, and I don't think there's anything to say they can't be connected, you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I get what you mean. Let me knock out this one last question here before we wrap up. Adam Perea. He said, "What's up, my handsome twin? In Cosmic Fury, how do you think the Rangers defeat Lord Zed this time? And do you want him to actually be destroyed or sent back to the original timeline, considering he is the real Lord Zed from MMPR, but just reincarnated? Do you see him being destroyed, or instead see him disappear back to the original timeline? We know that the actual Lord Zed was turned human at the end of In Space. If they do destroy Zed, likely nothing will happen to the timeline." Well, I don't look at him as the original, like, real Lord Zed. I think the real Lord Zed is what you talked about at the end of In Space, is turned human again, is very much sort of a good guy. When I look at what they recreated, he is the Lord Zed, if you will, from a particular moment in time, sort of reincarnated. But I still think that the real Lord Zed is out there. I still think that human being Lord Zed is certainly still out there. So because of the fact that that Lord Zed is out there, I'm expecting them to destroy him in this one. Do you think they'll destroy him, Stuart? And if so, any ideas as to how they could potentially do that? I think Billy will play a part in it, though.
Yeah, I think in terms of actually destroying Zed, I don't know how they're gonna do it, man. I think one of the coolest things would be if they somehow like used Serpentera and using the
Mm,
enemy's weapon against him. I think something like that would be kind of cool.
that would be
Uh
cool.
but yeah, I also do think that he's going to be destroyed. I don't know if they're going to do a timeline thing with this, because I think like when the creature, like that, the one monster said, "Oh, I brought Lord Zed back from his most evil point in history." I don't think he literally meant he pulled him out of the timeline from that period. I
Just
think it was
created,
more like he
recreated.
created a clone from that period of Lord Zed, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I agree with you too. So I think because of that, I think is why I think they'll destroy him, because I think we already have a Lord Zed established in continuity as a real, not a human being, but he's had his story told and wrapped up, and we haven't really bothered him in those years. So yeah, I think this Lord Zed will be destroyed. But who knows? I think we're still getting that Billy cameo in Cosmic Fury, so maybe he gives our Rangers some intel in regards to that, or maybe he gives them the location of Serpentera, or whatever the case may be. Who knows? But maybe he'll have a role to play.
Seeing how they brought in, the Morphin Masters from the comic books. I mean, yeah, I know they were established in the show before that, but seeing how they originally were brought back in the comic books, do you think we'll get Lord Zed's backstory from the comic books in Cosmic Fury?
Hmm. I don't know. Some tells me no, but you never know, man. I just feel like they have really tried to avoid bringing the comics in as much as possible, but they did bring in the Morphing Masters, which, I mean, look, they were already, I think, initially created in the first MMPR season, I believe, maybe updated a little bit more, but I don't know, Stuart. I don't know if they would do that or not. My thing would just be if, like, for me, if this isn't the real Lord Zed, I don't know how much you want to go back into his past. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
I don't
I
know.
see it more as like kind of know your enemy and then learn his weaknesses that
Oh,
way, kind of a thing.
as a possibility, it's definitely a possibility for sure. We'll see how they play that up though. All right. So that will wrap up all of our live viewer questions. If anything, Nicole, we will begin a live viewer question video for you at your comment. So we'll go from Nicole Robertson all the way up to Alexander Rosario, who submitted them in. I don't know what your schedule is like, Stuart. I don't know if that's something that you might be able to tackle in front of as far as a live viewer questions video this week. But we'll see. If not, I can do one for sure.
Yeah, I think I should be able to have time to record one tomorrow. I'll keep you posted.
Yeah, keep me posted, and we'll definitely knock that out for you guys. So definitely expect a live viewer question video, if not tomorrow, then by Tuesday at the latest, coming from myself or Stuart. So yeah, Nicole Robertson, you're up first, and we'll go ahead and wrap up everything else. But other than that, guys, that's going to do it for us. I know Indy certainly had to go, so I do apologize about that, guys. Stuart, he suggested super chats get their answered live in regards to live viewer questions, and page subs get their questions answered in a separate video.
Hmm. Yeah, I could think we could do something like that. We could also do it like, one question for free, but if you want to ask additional questions during the live viewer questions, those will be the super chats. We could do something like that too.
Yeah, that might be another option that we certainly might have. Um, maybe if they do submit live viewer questions, maybe we only select 5 at a time. So you never really know whether or not your question is going to get answered. So if you do want to make sure it gets answered, maybe a super chat. And then if you're lucky, maybe we'll pick it up, you know, pick out 5 questions from live viewer questions as a whole. I don't know. We'll play around with it. We'll play around with
Yeah.
it a little bit. But we definitely have some options here. But guys, that's going to do it for us here. We've got some great content coming your way the rest of the week. Again, we got Indy on his Flash currently right now for the final season. He'll be giving you episode 6 review later on this week. We also have 2 DC television shows beginning. Superman and Lois season 3 drops. Stuart will be giving you his reviews Thursday morning, along with Gotham Knights, which will be being reviewed by myself. You can expect Gotham Knights reviews Wednesday evening, guys. So we got 3 weekly shows for you guys. Also, The Mandalorian live. Do my reviews for The Mandalorian season 3 live every Thursday at 1 p.m. Central Time. So certainly join me there. So plenty of content, along with additional content throughout the week for you guys to certainly keep your eye on. So if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, hit that subscribe button, guys. It definitely does certainly go a long way. And if you want to support the channel in any way, whether that be on Facebook or YouTube, it certainly will go towards technology upgrades, more convention coverage, and hopefully being able to pay these gentlemen for the incredibly hard work that they certainly do around here. So, guys, other than that, I think that's everything we got for you guys today. Stuart, if people want to find you on social media, where can they find you, sir?
You guys can follow me at Turbos201 over on Twitter and on Instagram.
Excellent, man. And if you guys want to go ahead and follow us on social media, you can do so right up here at the top. A+ Opinions, very active over on social media. You can check us out on Twitter, Instagram, as well as Facebook, where we post all of our main news. But other than that, guys, that's going to do it for us here. We'll see you guys next weekend. But in the meantime, do us a big favor, as always. Take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and keep it A+. We'll talk to you guys later. Bye.